Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are live, coming back to you with a special session of the Draftnerds podcast. Tonight we will be doing blast from the past. Can't even speak right. Blast from the past. The 2001 NFL draft. I've been doing blast from the past the last 2 years, and this is all what we do is just go back and we watch old drafts, and it's fun to watch these drafts. Looking back on what happened versus what the outcome totally ended up being. It's always fun to watch these drafts with hindsight being 2020. Now you know how their careers ended up, and so to go back and see what these guys went through during those drafts is a pretty fun experience to kind of look at it from a 2020 point of view, where it's like, okay, we know the ending of the movie. Now we get to go back and watch the rest of it just to see what the experience was like for these guys, and we can even grade it. Who was wrong? Who was right? I think a lot of time when we watch the new drafts in real time, we're already ready to grade them, right? We have a grading system where it's like, oh, this team won the draft, this team lost the draft. Well, you really don't know until like at least 3 years in, right? In these situations, we're watching drafts from years ago, and we know the result, so we know who won and lost the draft based on the long-term results. So I also teased and promised an all 22 session for my Ravens flock out there. There's been a lot of talk about the Ravens needing a corner, right? They drafted Nate Wiggins in the first round last year. Marlon Humphrey had one of his best seasons of recent memory. And they also drafted in the fourth round a kid named TJ Tampa. Now, earlier I was talking with some friends and I equated fans like children with toys. A child gets a new toy and they're like infatuated with the toy. They're obsessed with the toy all the way up until they get a new toy. When they get the new toy, even if they haven't even played with the old toy or the toy that they had before, they've already moved on. They don't even consider the old toy anymore because they have a new toy. I'm saying this because every year there's a draft. Last year there was a draft. Some of those players didn't even get used, didn't even get an opportunity to really get on the field. And so we all say, well, we need a corner. And then if someone's response is, well, we just drafted TJ Tampa last year in the fourth round. Oh, no. I don't know what he can do. He hasn't been on the field. I don't know if he can play or not. Well, can't you say the same thing about the rookies coming in? You haven't actually seen them play yet. You don't know what they're going to do, right? So I think we need to keep that in mind when we are looking so far ahead to the next draft, forgetting that there's a whole draft class from the year before that's on your roster that you don't know what they're going to be yet. They literally have only played one season. And so you can't judge either way extremely on either side, whether your rookies had a great season or your rookies didn't get a lot of opportunities and didn't play much. You don't know what they're going to be until year 3. So let's maintain excitement for the 2024 class while also being excited for the 2025 class. Remember, you might already have a solution to a problem that you perceive to exist. You just got to see what the kids can do. And once they get that opportunity, then we can then judge them based on the results. Without further ado, I'm going to present TJ Tampa, and we're going to jump into TJ Tampa a little bit here before we jump into our draft. Welcome everybody from YouTube. Welcome everybody from Playback, from Twitter. It's always a pleasure to have you join me. Thank you for rocking with Draftnerds and making it one of the most successful pre-draft process spaces, podcasts, whatever you want to call it, content creators. Thank you for making me one of the most successful in the realm that I exist, and I appreciate you. And we're gonna get into Mr. TJ Tampa here for a little bit. A little all 22. I know people think that TJ doesn't exist, but I assure you he does. He was drafted. He's right there. He's number 2. Funny, the Ravens drafted two corners last year that wore the number 2. Nate Wiggins and TJ Tampa both wore number 2. But there's him at the bottom of your screen. For those who are not familiar with his game, my comp for him was Richard Sherman. When Richard Sherman played at Stanford, he didn't run the fastest 40 time. I think he ran like 4.58. His strength was zone coverage. You could just leave him on one side of the field, let him read the defense from a zone coverage standpoint. What he would do a lot would because he didn't have the speed, but he did have the length because he's a converted wide receiver. Same as TJ Tampa, by the way. He could pin receivers to the sideline. Use the sideline as almost like an extra defender. Pin the receivers to the sideline, and knowing that you got safety over the top, it allows you to do things a little bit freely than you probably would have if you're running man coverage. The Ravens do run a lot of zone coverage, so TJ's perfect in the system that they run. They do have some pretty good safeties in Kyle Hamilton or Darius Washington. I expect them to go in the draft and draft another safety. I think that'll be interesting to see what they do with that first pick. But yeah, watching a little TJ Tampa. This is him versus TCU. He's actually matched up in this game against a guy that a lot of Ravens fans have been, not a lot, but a few Ravens fans have been talking about, Savion Williams. I think Savion Williams will be a converted running back once he gets to the league. But you'll see him down here matched up at the bottom of the screen against Savion. Savion's a pretty big receiver. He's a big guy. I think he came in at 6'3" or 6'4", 6'3". It was so funny because they had him listed at 6'5". He was nowhere near that. No. So the way it works is they'll show a play and then they show 2 angles of each play. So you'll see multiple. So you'll see all 22 look, and then you'll see a close-up look of each play. But this is a whole game. I have some. If you guys are probably wondering, like, who is he talking to? I have the playback channel feed into my ears so I can hear them, even though you can't see them. We got Jordan joining us here. There he is.
Sorry, it took me a minute. I had to download this on my iPad.
No worries. Good to see you.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you, Shaggy.
Yeah, there's still long. It's almost there, though. It's almost cuttable.
Yeah, No. In playback, I can hear you guys, but I don't think the audience can hear you.
Yeah, I can't hear you.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. No, he can't hear y'all.
They're like prime opportunity.
You can't hear them, Jordan, but Miss Gina's talking trash about you. She said since you can't hear her, she can talk trash.
Yeah, exactly. Understandable. And you cut this. Going off.
They came to his side on that play. I want to kind of go back. Let me see. See what happened to him on that play. Let me see if I can slow it down. All right.
Got caught on going up.
TJ's a big corner though. Like I think Ravens fans should be excited about him in year 2. The Ravens could have shut him down and ended his rookie season, but they didn't. They kept him on the active roster. Even once he dealt with his injury, a whole year in the system. Now, getting to spend a full year in the weight room and just kind of work on his NFL body. Again, I think he's absolutely come out a lot better this season. And we didn't even get to see anything from him last year, so we don't know, how his development really went last season. All we saw was like a few plays that he played on special teams at the end of the season. But yeah, Ravens fans should absolutely be excited about him.
And I was listening to your intro too. That goes for that whole draft class. Like barely any of them were played. Like Adisa Isaac, we haven't seen what he is.
Right. Tez Walker, Adisa Isaac, TJ Tampa. I mean, essentially these guys are all basically rookies again because they really didn't play their rookie season.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why you cannot judge a draft class until at least year 3, because a lot of times the later round picks, they don't even play a lot year 1. They may be special teams only, so you don't even see them in their respective position groups until at least year 2, year 3, sometimes even year 4. Oh, he made that man touch the ground.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, man. That corner battle gonna be fun. Remember too, they thought of him as a second round talent.
Yeah, and he was a second round talent. I mean, in a lot of mocks that we did last year, you couldn't get him past the second round.
Yeah,
and so the fact that he was there in the 4th round was unbelievable. Okay.
Help me get the Lego. Can you help me get the Lego?
No, I can't help you get it.
Why?
Because you got access.
Man, that's a rough miss sack.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, I still want to draft a corner.
Oh, for sure. This doesn't say that you have to or you don't have to. I think what it does though, it just like lets you know that like, hey, like the cupboard is not bare. There is a prospect already on the team who was highly thought of last season. And frankly, if he was in this year's draft, I think he'd be a day 2 pick, maybe a 1st round pick. He'd be no worse than a 2nd round pick, I think, if he was in this year's class.
Yeah.
I like him better than some of the guys that are slightly projected in the 1st round this year.
I feel like everybody's got a different guy for that last spot in the corners in the 1st round. Like so many people are like Ben Morrison guys. That's not me.
Ben Morrison was like a 1st round pick almost unanimously early, and now you can't even find a mock that has him in the 1st round.
I like Amos though. I don't mind that. But I mean, I don't want to really reach on anything. I just kind of want to take top player swapping the entire time. He switched his hips well on that. Block shedding.
He's on the outside matched up against a big physical guy, Savion. Savion Williams is, like I said, I think he'll be like he reminds me of Cordell Patterson, so he's like that type of player.
Yeah.
Receiver, really kind of a running back, but he is big. He is pretty physical, so it is interesting to see him matched up with a guy like that.
It's crazy that TCU just keeps churning out little wide receivers.
Mm-hmm. But none of them ever pan out in the NFL. They're just like really good college wide receivers, but they don't do anything in the NFL.
Yes, sir. They have a curse on them.
I think Jack Beck is the new guy that everyone loves now.
I saw Steve Smith saying he's like a tight end.
I said the same thing, and then Ravens fans was like, "Oh man, you tripping? He's a great receiver." No, he's not. But cool. When Steve Smith tell you, then you believe it.
I know. I'm not tight end there yet, but I'm like,
what's up, y'all?
What's up, Trust?
I think some people are going a little crazy in the hype.
What? Why did you didn't say yes?
Yes.
We talking about that?
Not that. Lego. Let's say yes.
It's good, Jordan.
What up, boss?
Man. I just got off stream.
Nice.
We watching Mr. T.J. Tampa.
What's good, Matt?
What's good, brother? Hey, man. Looking forward to a nice young secondary of Nate Wiggins, T.J. Tampa, Kyle Hamilton, Darius Washington, Malachi Starks. Malachi Starks. Some rookie. And then the vets, Chidobe Awuzie and Marlon Humphrey.
Yeah.
It's a really good secondary. Listen, there's two ways to impact the quarterback. Either you have a really good front seven that puts the pressure on the quarterback and allows the secondary to not have to cover as long, or you get a really good secondary that makes the quarterback hold on to the ball a second longer, which then allows the pass rush to get home.
100. We just need to get them pass rushers too.
Absolutely.
We've been spinning picks there. Just need to spend more.
See if they open still.
He always tries a gator roll tackle. It's the one thing that drives me nuts about him in film. You fix that little habit. Nothing playing.
Yeah, I think a lot of the Ravens secondary issues had a lot to do with two things. One, the inexperience in Zach Orr as a D coordinator, and two, I just think some of the veterans they had was not bought in to playing their positions and their roles. I.e. Marcus Williams and Eddie Jackson. Eddie Jackson's issue was he didn't want to be a backup. He didn't want to be a role player. He wanted to be a starter. But you're going to a team that has Kyle Hamilton, Marcus Williams is already there. I just don't know what starting position you thought you were going to play. Like, you were always going to be a reserve guy.
Mm-hmm.
So that to me that didn't make sense. That didn't make sense.
Plus, Brandon Stevens having a fall off here.
Yeah. Marcus did not want to tackle. Marcus wasn't interested in tackling. Eddie Jackson was not interested in tackling. And Brandon Stevens had one of the worst. I've never seen a player from one year to the next year fall off so bad. 2023, he was looking like a potential Pro Bowl corner. To the next year, he was like almost unplayable.
Yeah, he still got paid a bag. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So go to draft. Yeah, I want to see him in a decent, man. Something's got to come out of those middle rounds. We got it in the first and second. Everything else, we need something.
I do like the way TJ shows some physicality in certain moments. Like right here, look at the hit. Right? That's what you get from a bigger corner. Just ability to just kind of lay into smaller receivers.
Mm-hmm.
Look at this play right here. Watch this. And that's zone coverage. That's zone coverage. He played like you seen Richard Sherman make a living off that.
And most of the NFL zone coverage now.
Yep. Look at the physicality to come up and make the hit. He can be. He can definitely be handsy. Oh, look at that. Another zone coverage interception. Just trailing the guy, undercutting him.
I think a lot of guys in college are handsy too, though. I think that's stuff they polish out more.
Come on, seatbelt, man.
Watch this play. Watch this play. Physicality. Now, one thing about John Harbaugh that I know is that if you're going to play in his secondary, you got to be able to tackle. John has always taken pride in the secondary. I know a lot of us know him as a special teams coach, but he started off as a secondary coach. In fact, when he played football, he played corner. And so he takes a special liking to the secondary. And one thing that he wants from his defensive backs, safeties, and corners is tackling. You got to be able to tackle. Marcus Williams just was not interested, which I didn't understand. I don't know. Marcus had a pretty good 23 season too, and just completely just didn't show up last year.
Yeah, like when he was on the field that year, he was good.
There's reports. Well, actually, it's not even a report. Per TJ Tampa himself, we posted on Instagram. Him doing a workout session with Christian Gonzalez from the Patriots. Him and Christian working out together. So, iron sharpens iron.
A good place to be.
Absolutely. Great tackle. Like you see the long arms. Like the dude can literally reach her. Like he reached through. You can reach around another defender in order to grab a guy and pull the ball out.
It'll be fun.
It's gonna be fun to see TJ back in that secondary.
It's been a decent man.
While I'm gonna get fans excited about last year's class real quick. Let's just let's bring people back, because I think people just they act like that class died and it's never coming back. And we gotta find a new player at every position that we just drafted last year. Let's check out Mr. Isaac. when they don't play. Absolutely,
I think
it
it's
is easy.
I think it's partially too because Nate Wiggins and Roger Rosengard were so good right away
Oh, look at that tackle.
that like fans naturally are like, oh, every player has to produce immediately.
I want to see Adisa lose a little weight though this year. He looked a little heavy last season.
Mhm.
I don't want him to be that heavy. I want him to have a little bit of, I want him to have the ability to move. If you look at this, he looked like he played a little lighter than he did last year. But I always say the rookie season for guys is the hardest because they're going through a whirlwind of things.
Mhm.
Their
world just changed.
Yeah, like they go right from the end of their college season straight to the pre-draft process. And what that is Senior Bowl, East-West Shrine games, other all-star games. Then they go from that to training for the combine. Then they go through the combine, they go to the pro day. Then right after the pro day,
or you have draft. Killed that man. Man, we just need to be excited. And we got 11 of these picks coming on the way.
I love what he has the potential to bring. So again, while we're asking for a pass rusher, we just drafted one who didn't really play a snap last season.
Yeah, he was a third rounder.
Yeah, he was a third round pick, which is pretty high. So I like to see what Adisa can do. I like to see, him get a chance to play. Not saying we can't go out in the draft and draft one this year, but I think, let's keep in mind we got some young players on this roster that's still waiting for their chance. So and unlike Owe, as you can see, he actually had sacks in college.
You didn't have to do him dirty like that.
That Owe pick was strange. It's still strange to me. In the first round, to draft a guy with little to no experience, had 0 sacks, and you take him in the first round, like that had to have been strictly analytics.
Man,
it had to been.
Man, I wonder what he thinks of Shamar Stewart.
Like they literally made that pick based off analytics. They had to, because there was no production to speak of.
His pressure rate was good though.
Pressure rate, great. Because that wins you championships.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Your pressure rate.
His pressure rate was real good against the Buffalo Bills when Josh Allen had all day to throw.
You should have seen those advanced PFF scores.
Josh Allen was sitting back there making coffee, and it's always that pressure rate that he had in college. He had a great pressure rate.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
He had a great pressure rate.
His pressure rate, though.
Hey, did you get him on the ground? Did you get him on the ground or didn't you? Did you touch him or did you not touch him?
But he was feeling the pressure. Especially at his rate.
Because your pressure rate, like, are you getting there? Are you getting there just as he's throwing the ball? like, it's like, okay, like, yeah.
It takes 2 extra gather steps.
Yeah, man. I think we got the Ravens fans should have a lot to be excited about last year's class. And then if they can compile that with this year's class, which is a pretty big class, with 11 picks, it could be more, it could be less. I think the nucleus for a young team to continue to get younger is there, and you got to do that. When you're paying Lamar Jackson so much money, you have to get younger. You have to get younger at a lot of premium positions because you can't afford to have a top pass rusher and a top left tackle and a top quarterback and a top wide receiver and a top like safety, like top linebacker. Like you can't afford those things. Yeah, there is a salary cap.
And those void years will eventually hit us.
Yes, they will. Now, are you guys excited about Ted? Like, does Tez Walker excite you for his potential? I mean, 6'2", and he runs a 4.3. He's got to catch the ball more consistently, in my opinion.
Yeah, you know the answer to this one for me.
He looked good towards the end of the season, but then he still showed the inconsistency, right? He had the unbelievable deep ball catch against the Giants, and then he had the deep ball, over the shoulder drop against the Texans. That's Tez Walker in a nutshell, right? He'll make a crazy, unbelievable catch, and then he'll make a routine drop. He's got to get better at that. But he can run. He can certainly run. I will give that to him. He can definitely run.
True. He gonna be interesting. Plus, I'm not a huge fan of this wide receiver class in general. I think it falls off. And it falls off hard.
What round do you think it falls off?
Dude, I'm gonna be real. I and this sounds crazy to most people. I don't think there's a wide receiver 1 in this class. I think they're like all wide receiver 2s.
Except Travis. Travis is legit a 1. If he played wide receiver full time, he's absolutely a wide receiver 1.
If you count Travis, I could be in that argument.
Yeah, like if Travis decided, you know what, today I'm going to be a wide receiver only, he's absolutely a 1. And if he gets drafted by the Patriots, he is absolutely even with Diggs signing in today, he's still the 1.
But then I feel like after the first wide receiver, there's another drop off. And then you have a bunch of wide receiver 3 and 4s.
Yeah.
Because I keep trying to find the mid-round wide receiver that I fall in love with every year, and I just can't find it in this class.
Remember, you heard it here first. I'm going to say something a little different. I think this class is going to have a round 2 or round 3 guy that is going to be one of the top receivers in the NFL in the next 3 years.
Okay.
There's a sneaky suspicion about this draft class. It reminds me of the years where guys like Antonio Brown came out late, got picked up, and took off. Cooper Kupp was a late round pick, took off. Stephon Diggs was a late round pick, took off. This feels like a season where that happens, where
I think there's a lot of potential. I think in terms of physical profiles compared to most years, you're looking at a pretty tall, good wide receiver class in terms of their measurables and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. It's about just developing them on the field because they don't excite me as much on the field as I would want it to.
Yeah, and I mean, if you went back and watched those drafts before, you would have said Antonio Brown really didn't excite you either.
Yeah, exactly.
Central Michigan, Cooper Kupp at Eastern Washington really didn't excite you. Puka Nacua when he came out, we watched him on BYU. It was like, all right. He should be able to help a team as a 3, but then if you look back 2 years later and he's like a number 1, you didn't see that. I think one, the NFL game mimicking the college game a lot more helps. It makes it for an easier transition. And plus, I just think there's always hidden gems. There's always guys who just slip through the cracks for whatever reason. Yeah. And they go to smaller schools or they don't get a chance to really shine in college like they would be in the NFL, and then they get the opportunity and they take off. There's a couple of guys in that second, third, maybe even fourth round that I think one or two of those guys we're gonna be looking at and be like, wow, that was a crazy pick. And I think those guys will be better than some of the guys that go in the first round. All right. So look, tonight, y'all, we're gonna jump into it real quick. 2001 NFL draft. Reason why I wanted to start with this draft specifically is because this is the Michael Vick draft. And for those who are big fans of Lamar Jackson, I just want you to listen carefully of the rhetoric and the talk, the tone, the language used to describe Michael Vick. I think you'll notice a familiar tone when you hear them talk about Michael Vick in the 2001 draft. Let's get to it.
Outside the theater of Madison Square Garden before the sun came up, fans of all teams trying to get in to watch Michael Vick. 5 other of the top
Look at that
players,
suit.
like LaDainian Tomlin,
Yeah.
David
It's the
Terrell,
biggest suit.
and all
Man.
the teams.
I'm not gonna lie, I
All
definitely
31
missed
of
the
them.
random
The
tables.
66th
You missed the
Yeah,
random what?
NFL
The tables with
selection
teams' flags
which
on
in
them.
English
Oh, yeah.
is
I know, right?
translated
That was.
as
I don't know
good
why
job.
I miss it,
Draft.
but I do.
Welcome to New York for a weekend of football.
Do you remember this draft?
Are you ready for
I was
some
3.
football?
So
You say you were 3?
Yeah.
52,000 have wedged their way into the
I
theater
was
here. Chris Berman, Mel Kiper, Joe
I was in
Theismann,
high school,
Chris Mortensen.
but
in dog years we've done
this was a fun draft. I remember watching this draft. Obviously, it was fun because Michael Vick went number 1, and he was like my favorite player in college at the time.
We shall see. Well,
Man, I was sitting there like, well, I wish the Ravens could get him, but we had just won the Super Bowl the year before, so
Wait, I take it back. I was 6.
Michael Vick would have been great in the Baltimore though. But hey, we got Lamar Jackson.
Involving Michael Vick, essentially. Yesterday afternoon,
16 years later.
Chargers and Atlanta Falcons swapped the number 1 pick of the draft.
Look at this
When I was a
Fifth
kid.
overall selection, 3rd pick, round pick, 2nd round pick, and Tim Dwight for the 1. Now, here's the thing this trade worked out for both teams, so to speak. Falcons got Michael Vick. Chargers ended up using that 2nd round pick for Drew Brees. The Chargers ended up using that 2nd round pick for Drew Brees. Now, Drew Brees did most of his lifting with the Saints.
Well, I think really this
Because
process
Brees
started 2
suffered a
weeks
shoulder
ago when
injury
Dan Reeves brought Michael
in
Vick
San
to
Diego.
Atlanta. Dan Reeves did not go to the Indianapolis.
And they decided, I don't know, they gave up
Brought
on him.
Michael
They
Vick
drafted
in
Phillip
for a
Rivers,
visit,
traded him
workout.
to the
Just
Saints.
needed the eyeball him. And
It
like
worked out
what
for
he saw,
everybody.
like
Phillip
what he
Rivers
heard, and
played
then
for a
they
couple of
just waited.
decades
And
with the
San
Chargers.
Diego went through this process.
Brees
I think
became a
John
legend in New
Buckner, the
Orleans.
general manager of
And
the
Michael
Chargers,
Vick was
never
the Michael
truly
Vick experience in
comfortable
Atlanta
with Michael
before it
Vick.
all came
Otherwise,
crashing
this
down.
deal never gets
So
done.
I was
Needed
6
an
at
offer
the
he can
time
live
of this
with.
draft.
Got it. The Falcons
What?
Yeah.
stuck, and then
So
What?
Darius in the comments says I was 6 years old.
Yeah, I was 6. I was 6. What was like? Why is there 31 picks? Who got their pick taken?
There was only 31 teams at the time.
Oh yeah, the Texans are there.
Yeah. The Texans did not exist yet.
Taylor Smith, the owner, okays it. The
that's
money's
You
done.
should never have an
2
odd
weeks,
number
they'll
of
probably
teams.
sign the contract.
That's
why they went and got the Texans.
Just to say, this is what
The
we're
only
doing.
reason
Because the
is like-
Houston Oilers had moved to Tennessee.
Yeah.
And,
3 years ago went to the
And the
Super
Browns
Bowl.
came back,
They're wondering
making
where
it an
they're going
uneven
in
number. It
this
was
day
30
and
teams at
age.
first.
But Mel,
But when the Browns
trade
came
away
back in
the rights to
1998,
a
it made it
quarterback,
30
top
teams.
of the draft,
And
I'm
so
not asking why you would do it, what might be a hang up on Michael Vick? Is he not?
it was 30 teams at first, and then the Browns came back, made it
It's not
31.
a given, Chris. Look at Michael Vick.
And then
Best
Texans made it
athlete
32.
to ever play the quarterback position at
Look at this
any
guy.
level.
Woo.
He's that gifted. He runs that 4.3, a 40-inch vertical jump. You see the arm strength and the loft.
That boy Michael Vick, listen, his deep ball was beautiful.
Yeah.
People never gave him enough credit for that. He had one of the best deep balls I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And look at these moves. This is insane. That national championship against Florida State is the stuff of legends. No, it's not done.
Bro, speaking of Hail Marys, Quinn Ewers make one today.
I don't believe that. I still
Got Michael
believe
Vick.
that the Raiders, they have a greater need now to build on that franchise. I think
Bro, like
Michael
you
Vick
couldn't
has a lot
create
of
someone out of a
ability.
lineup in college football.
Throws the ball
That
deep
looked
well.
that
We saw it in the highlights. Moves around very well. Positions the ball
We're doing
well.
trash.
Quick release. You look at the way the trend has gone in the National Football League. A lot of running quarterbacks. Dante Culpepper, Steve McNair, Donovan McNabb.
That's all fine, Joe, but you got to be able to pick somebody
He
with
trusts
your
back.
arm in the pocket. He is light years away from being that type of
All right. Listen, hold on. Let me rewind it. Listen to the conversation around Michael Vick. It's the same talk that we heard him with Lamar. Listen.
A 12-year star in this league once he gets the hang of it. Well, it's not a given, Chris. Look at Michael Vick, best athlete probably to ever play the quarterback position at any level. He's that gifted. He runs that 4.3, a 40-inch vertical jump. You see the arm strength and the loft on those passes down the field. You see he's upright. Needs to tweak those mechanics.
No way.
Certainly. And Joe, I know what you're going to get into here, but I'm telling you, he needs a lot of work before he said, he's so good, Joe. Why did nobody anybody outside of Atlanta try to trade up again? And why does San Diego pass on a franchise quarterback?
Because I think right now he's a little too young. They've got a quarterback who can play for him right now in San Diego. They're fine.
What for? How long? If they thought he was a franchise quarterback, Joe, that had taken him.
I don't believe that. I still believe that this is the right choice. They have a greater need now to build on that franchise. I think Michael Vick has athletic ability that you can't teach. Throws the ball deep well. We saw it in the highlights. Moves around very well. Positions the ball well. Quick release. You look at the way the trend has gone in the National Football League. A lot of running quarterbacks. Dante Culpepper, Steve McNair, Donovan McNabb.
That's all fine, Joe, but you got to be able to pick somebody with your arm in the pocket. And he is light years away from being that type of quarterback.
Tell that to Jeff Fisher.
No, bigger
have
picture.
to be able to
And Joe,
contribute with the arm.
Bigger picture.
And legs.
Is it because Vic was not head and shoulders ahead of about 6 or 7 other guys?
You can't hear any audio?
Evaluation at yours?
Yeah.
What do you think?
That's exactly right, Chris. I think you look at this draft, it did not have that one super elite prospect. You talk about 7 players, maybe as many as 12
Still
with the
nothing?
same grade. Michael Vick's at the top because he's a quarterback, no question about it. But any one of these players, I think, has a chance to become a great talent in the NFL. The perception, though, right now is that this draft does not have that one super
last
elite
great
prospect.
TCU
My
pick,
contention
man.
is that San Diego thought he was next. John Elway, Drew Bledsoe, he would have been
Let me
number
see.
1 pick. And I think this
They said they can't hear the stream inside of the playback.
Michael Vick,
Oh,
freshman,
damn.
Florida State in the Superdome. Everybody talked about there's like 30 NFL prospects on that Florida State roster.
Yes,
The best player on that field tonight was Michael Vick.
that's the college level, Mark.
And he definitely threw the ball better than Joe did at the Super Bowl, but that's at the Sugar Bowl. That's another.
Anybody throw the ball better than I do.
Fine. Listen, San Diego, there is a big question. Let's take it from San Diego's perspective.
No, I should have.
Did they get enough?
So,
They get a 3
oh, you know what?
and a 2
Let me
next
try
year
something.
in Tim Dwight for a guy that they figure could sit and watch Doug Flutie play for 2 years and then be a perfect guy and re-energize that franchise that was de-energized, and that's the understatement of the century, by the Ryan.
Picking at 31. He got a plan. Man, we got to get Malachi Starks.
Mm-hmm.
This draft class a weird one, man. Everyone's back end first round looks different.
The board, there's a lot of concern about what Cleveland will do with the number 3 pick. They fear that either the
5, they figure could
Play for him right now in San Diego. They're fine.
Can y'all hear it now on playback?
Doug
if
Flutie
they thought he
could be
was a
2 or 3
franchise
years.
quarterback, Joe, that had taken him.
I don't believe that. I still believe that this is the right choice. They have a greater need now to build on that franchise. I think Michael Vick has athletic ability that you can't teach. Throws the ball deep well. We saw it in the highlights. Moves around very well. Positions the ball well. Quick release. You look at the way the trend has gone in the National Football League. A lot of running quarterbacks. Dante Culpepper, Steve McNair, Donovan McNabb.
That's all fine, Joe, but you got to be able to pick somebody with your arm in the pocket. He is light years away from being that type of quarterback.
Tell that to Jeff Fisher.
No, bigger
have to
picture.
be able to
And Joe,
contribute with the arm
bigger picture.
and legs.
Is it because Vic was not head and shoulders ahead of about 6 or 7 other guys in many teams' evaluation at yours? What do you think?
That's exactly right, Chris. I think you look at this draft, it did not have that one super elite prospect. You talk about 7 players, maybe as many as 12 with the same grade. Michael Vick's at the top because he's a quarterback, no question about it. But any one of these players, I think, has a chance to become a great talent in the NFL. The perception, though, right now is that this draft does not have that one super elite prospect. And my contention is that San Diego thought he was next. John Elway, Drew Bledsoe, he would have been the number 1 pick. And I think
to throw in here really quick. Look, Sugar Bowl game. Michael Vick, freshman, Florida State in the Superdome. Everybody talked about there's like 30 NFL prospects on that Florida State roster. The best player on that field tonight was Michael Vick.
That's the college level, Mark. And he definitely threw the ball better than Joe did at the Super Bowl, but that's at the Sugar Bowl. That's another.
Anybody throw the ball better than I do.
Listen, San Diego, there is a big question. Let's take it from San Diego's perspective for one moment. Did they get enough? They get a 3 and a 2 next year in Tim Dwight for a guy that they figure could sit and watch.
Oh, they can't hear it.
But San Diego's coming off a 1-15 season. If they get a running back, and if they
Throws the ball deep well. We saw it in the highlights. Moves around very well. Positions the ball well. Quick release. You look at the way the trend has gone in the National Football League. A lot of running quarterbacks. Dante Culpepper, Steve McNair, Donovan McNabb.
That's all fine. You've got to be able to beat somebody with your arm in the pocket. He is light years away from being that type of quarterback.
Tell that to Jeff Fisher.
Now, bigger
You have
picture.
to be able to
And Joe,
contribute with the arm.
Bigger picture.
And legs.
Is it because Vic was not head and shoulders ahead of about 6 or 7 other guys in many teams' evaluation end years? What do you think? That's exactly right, Chris. I think if you look at this draft, it did not have that one super elite prospect. You talk about 7 players, maybe as many as 12 with the same grade. Michael Vick's at the top because he's a quarterback, no question about it. But any one of these players, I think, has a chance to become a great talent in the NFL. The perception, though, right now is that this draft does not have that one super elite prospect. And my contention is that San Diego thought he was next. John Elway, Drew Bledsoe, he would have been the number 1 pick. And I think
this to throw in here really quick. Look, Sugar Bowl game. Michael Vick, freshman, Florida State in the Superdome. Everybody talked about there's like 30 NFL prospects.
Would you have to go on mute to
the best player
have
on
the
that
audio?
was Michael Vick.
That's the college level, Mark. And he definitely threw the ball better than Joe did at the Super Bowl, but that's at the Sugar Bowl. That's another.
Anybody throw the ball better than I do.
Listen, San Diego, there is a big question. Let's take it from San Diego's perspective for one moment. Did
I'm watching Matt go off right now.
Damian Lewis, they
continued for the St. Louis Rams, the first of 3 number 1s, and they began gathering outside.
Dang, there's crazy times when the Daniel Tomlinson top 5 pick. Now we have a generational running back, and we're talking maybe the Bears take him in the top 10. Maybe the Raiders do it at 6. But back then, it's just nah, you got running back that good, you take him. And I was 2 during this draft. 2001. 2. Or is 3. Get back.
DMV, how we looking over there, buddy? If not, Miss Gina, can you share it on your end? I'm gonna go ahead and get started for everybody else.
Inside the theater of Madison Square Garden before the sun came up, fans of all teams trying to get in to watch Michael Vick. 5 other of the top players like LaDainian Tomlinson, David Terrell, and all the teams represented, all 31 of them, for this, the 66th annual NFL selection meeting, which in English we should translate as
Jalen Thompson out here.
Welcome to New York.
Can y'all hear on playback?
Of football. And are you ready for the draft?
You might be able to hear now.
Are you ready for some football? I think we have a new attendance record. 52,000 have wedged their way into the theater here.
For my folks on playback, can y'all hear? Oh, they can hear now, so we good. They can
Let's
hear.
go, W.
Perfect.
We have
He's got some technical difficulties.
You got it.
My man Matt went back to the old days.
We shall see.
2001?
I was 1 year old.
That was 3. That was 3.
Hey, Matt, I was a breastfed child when a while.
Oh man.
I was a breastfed child when a while.
So I want y'all to hear the rhetoric discussed in this opening about Michael Vick, and tell me this doesn't sound eerily similar to Lamar Jackson.
The Chargers move down and pick 5. They get a 3 this
Look
year.
at Tim Dwight out
year,
here.
and a kickoff return man extraordinaire, Tim Dwight. But the headline is the Atlanta Falcons have an opportunity to select Michael Vick to play some quarterback, to play in the South. They know him full well from Virginia Tech. And Dan Reeves has done this once before. Chris Mortensen, how and when did this go down, and why did it go down?
Well, I think really this process started 2 weeks ago when Dan Reeves brought Michael Vick to Atlanta. Dan Reeves did not go to the Indianapolis Scouting Combine. He brought Michael Vick in for a visit, not a workout. Just needed to eyeball him and liked what he saw, liked what he heard. And then they just waited. And as San Diego went through this process, I think John Butler, the general manager of the Chargers, never truly comfortable with Michael Vick. Otherwise, this deal never gets done. Needed an offer he can live with. Got it. The Falcons struck. And then as far as the contract goes, Harold Richardson, the general manager of the Falcons, talked to Vick's agents, Andre Colon and Mike Sullivan, and basically said, what are you looking for? They presented the same deal that they gave to San Diego. Vick's people did. And the Falcons says, we'll take it, even though it'll take 2 weeks to finalize. So basically, Taylor Smith, the owner, okays it. The money's done. 2 weeks, he'll probably sign the contract. And Dan Reeves, by the way, did call Chris Chandler yesterday, another part of the process, just to say, this is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it.
Well, I think a lot of people in Atlanta are certainly energized. The team that 3 years ago went to the Super Bowl, and they're wondering where they're going in this day and age. But, Mel, when you trade away the rights to a quarterback at the top of the draft, I'm not asking why you would do it, but what might be a hang-up on Michael Vick? Is he not a 12-year star?
All right, now listen to this, y'all. Listen to this.
It's not a given, Chris. Look at Michael Vick, best athlete probably to ever play the quarterback position at any level. He's that gifted. He runs that 4.3, a 40-inch vertical jump. You see the arm strength and the loft on those passes down the field. You see he's upright. Needs to tweak those mechanics.
No way.
Certainly. And Joe, I know what you're going to get into here, but I'm telling you, he needs a lot of work before he said, he's so good, Joe. Why did nobody outside of Atlanta try to trade up again? And why did San Diego pass on a franchise quarterback?
Because I think right now he's a little too young. They've got a quarterback who can play for him right now in San Diego. They're fine.
What, for how long? Hey, if they thought he was a franchise quarterback, Joe, that had taken him.
I don't believe that. I still believe that this is the right choice. They have a greater need now to build on that franchise.
Sounds just like Lamar.
Michael Vick has athletic ability that you can't teach. Throws the ball deep well. We saw it in the highlights. Moves around very well. Positions the ball well. quick release. You look at the way the trend has gone in the National Football League. A lot of running quarterbacks. Dante Culpepper, Steve McNair, Donovan McNabb.
That's all fine, Joe, but you got to be able to beat somebody with your arm in the pocket. He is.
You hear that? You got to be able to beat someone in the pocket.
It's a Mel Kiper shit.
Is it because Vic was not head and shoulders ahead of about 6 or 7 other guys in many teams' evaluation end of years? What do you think?
That's exactly right, Chris. I think if you look at this draft, it did not have that one super elite.
That's back when he was still junior.
7 players, maybe as many as 12 with the same grade. Michael Vick's at the top because he's a quarterback, no question about it. But any one of these players, I think, has a chance to become a great talent in the NFL. The perception, though, right now is that this draft does not have that one super elite prospect. And my contention is that San Diego thought he was next.
I love to watch these now, looking back, because Mel Kiper is saying, "Oh, this draft have that one super elite prospect." A draft that included LaDainian Tomlinson, Hall of Fame, Drew Brees, Hall of Fame, Michael Vick, one of the greatest individual talents we've ever seen.
Richard Seymour.
That's kind of funny.
And he definitely threw the ball better than Joe did at the Super Bowl, but that's at the Sugar Bowl. That's another.
Anybody throw the ball better than I do.
Listen, San Diego, there is a big question. Let's take it from San Diego's perspective for one moment. Did they get enough? They get a 3 and a 2 next year in Tim Dwight for a guy that they figure could sit and watch Doug Flutie play for 2 years and then be a perfect guy and re-energize that franchise.
Did they get enough?
De-energize, and that's the understatement of the century by the Ryan Leaf.
Say that
we
is
can only
enough.
call it a fiasco to this moment. And San Diego's coming off a 1-15 season. If they get a running back and if they get other players, they feel that, you know what, we have better served our team because Flutie is going to be playing right now. And by the way, that's already energized the fans out there. I have one case in point, then I'm going to go out to Ed Werder. This exact deal happened in '95 between Cincinnati and Carolina. Carolina went down from 1 to 5. Cincinnati went up from 5 to 1, as San Diego and Atlanta have done. Cincinnati ended up picking Kajana Carter. Carolina ended up picking Kerry Collins at 5. But it cost only a 2 to make that move. So if you look at that as the worth, then a 2 and 3 and a returner in Dwight, then they did get a good deal. There are others that say they did not get enough. But if they get the running back here or at the top of the second, then I think San Diego is satisfied. But you know what? The beauty of this is we could debate this forever. And the beauty of this is that Ed Werder is out in San Diego right now, right in the middle of all this. Good morning, Ed.
Good morning, Chris. You're right. The Chargers do want
It just
to
looks like a
upgrade their
2001
running game, which was the
reporter right
worst
there.
In the NFL last year, they averaged just their leading rusher, Terrell Fletcher, averaged 3.3 yards a carry. They got 67 yards rushing per game. And what they want to do with the 5th pick is take LaDainian Tomlinson, the number 1 player on their board. But there's a lot of concern about what Cleveland will do with the number 3 pick.
Him and Ricky Williams was my favorite running back.
Either the
I literally
Patriots or
put
more
number
likely
5
the
in high
Bears
school
will
because of
attempt to
LaDainian
trade
Tomlinson.
in front of them. And
Him
those
and Donovan
teams also
McNabb.
covet Tomlinson. If that happens and
Heck
all
yeah.
of the best offensive tackles are gone, I think John Butler wouldn't hesitate to take Gerard Warren, the top defensive player on the
That
board.
was a 24-42
All right,
guy.
Eddie, thank you very much. It shall be interesting out there. And, of course, San Diego trying to do a lot of building. Hey, make no mistake about it. This team is on its way. We'll talk about them when they get there. It's just on its way a little different than we thought 24 hours ago. Another big picture for you fans to watch out today. The St. Louis Rams, a year ago, 1 year removed, the Super Bowl champs, they couldn't stop anybody last year, even though their offense continues to be one of the most prolific in the history of the NFL. By making deals involving Trent Green and earlier, the Rams now have 3 first-round picks as we speak and 2 second-round
Hey,
picks.
Trust, remember you asked me the other day, when's the last time a team had 3, has a team ever had 3 first-round picks? Well, here you go.
The Giants did recently.
In the first round as well.
They just
No one
wasted
was
them all.
busier than them in the offseason. Those are 2 teams to keep your eye on. Justin Smith, Leonard Davis. These guys are going to be hearing from them immediately after the commissioner opens
You heard me,
up
Jordan?
here in New York.
Yeah, I can't
We'll
hear
be
you.
back to kick things off.
I thought that was the- I thought that was the Jets.
No, the Giants did it 1 year. They drafted a really bad corner. I don't remember who the other 2 picks were.
Well, think again.
In the first
Everybody
round?
watching coast to
Yeah.
coast, all over the world. We're on ESPN.
I gotta see.
There's ESPN
Man, look how
Radio.
much technology has
The
changed.
ESPN zone
Just look
with
at
NFL
ESPN
player
like
chat.
back then.
We've got expert panels in Bristol. I feel like
Look at the
I'm
way the
Jackson
crowd
Bob
is.
Truckers on
Now in the
CB.
draft,
We
you
got
would have
Richard Pryor
hundreds
on
of
the
thousands of
video.
people.
We
Yeah.
have
Real.
video teleconferencing with all 31 teams. There's the zone. we hope we are in the zone.
The game has grown so much.
Chomping at the bit to talk
The
NFL
media and
football
technology
since
has
the end
grown
of
so
the
much.
Pro Bowl
It's
in early
incredible.
February. So, it is his honor.
Look at that poll on the
his
right
second
side.
decade now, Commissioner Paul Tagliabue
2,000
gets
full
to
votes.
Theoretically, throw down the gavel and open up this NFL draft. So, let's go. I mean, we're going to talk Atlanta. We'll wait for the commissioner to immediately open it. But the Atlanta Falcons, they have Chris Chandler hurt a lot. Yep. I'll tell you what, we're going to go to the commissioner. You see, he hears his name, and here he is. So we work together here.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the 2001 NFL College Player Draft. We appreciate all you fans who have joined us here in New York today, as well as the millions around the nation watching on ESPN. We also extend our thanks to everyone involved in college and high school football for all you do for the great game of football. The Atlanta Falcons have the first pick in this 2001 NFL Draft, and the Falcons are now on the clock.
I don't know. 2 years ago at this time, the Atlanta Falcons were the defending NFC champs. The bottom, of course, fell out. 4-12. They couldn't move on offense. They couldn't stop very many people on defense. They have a quarterback in Chris Chandler. Gets hurt often, but when he's in, they play pretty well. They got Eric Zier to be a backup. So what should be the plan for Michael Vick? Wants for a year and two, play in goal line situations. What would you do with him, Joe?
I certainly think that Michael Vick
I always forget that the NFL draft was only 2 days back then.
At some point in time.
Oh, it was multiple days back then.
Chandler's
It was
healthy
like
or not. I still think they'll
like
try
3
and
or
work
4
him in.
days.
They'll give him specific packages. They'll give him 5 or 6 plays to run.
But they used to have a ton of rounds.
I would think if you want to stress an area for him, put him down around the goal line. That would be the place.
How many times are they going to be near the goal line?
You guess what? You'll never guess who this pick is. Let's go to the podium.
With the first selection in the 2001 NFL Draft, the Atlanta Falcons select Michael Vick, quarterback, Virginia Tech.
That's the fastest their offense has moved since they gave the ball to Jamal Anderson in the Super Bowl 2 years ago.
Joe's making a point about Chris Chandler and things he does well. Chris Chandler throws a great deep ball. Dan Reeves likes throwing the ball downfield. And Michael Vick throws a tremendous deep ball. So
One of the coldest jerseys ever.
Let's back off for a minute and analyze what a moment this is for this young man who has played 2 years of big-time college football at Virginia Tech, whose difference from September and October a year ago to the end of this past season. I mean, you talk about a learning curve that was a skyrocket. And here he is.
That suit
He's
is
the
huge.
number 1 pick. You not put yourself. Who knows how
He's
many
got big
millions?
shoes to fill. He gets it.
The excitement in Atlanta, because I do live in Atlanta, I'm telling you, this guy connects with a young generation of
They're based on his combine
Your
measurements.
son. Your son told you to go season.
I've got to buy season tickets, but I'm telling you, Atlanta needed something inspirational, and Dan Reeves provided it.
And one thing about, we talk about Michael Vick, he is a leader. He is a guy that can rally the troops. The team really galvanizes around Michael Vick. He will work at it. He will spend time evaluating and breaking down film, the tendencies of the opponent, Joe. He will have the work ethic and the diligence and attention to detail that you need to develop those skills. It's a major plus in his favor.
And when you sit down with the young man, you get the sense that he understands that there is a learning curve. He knows he doesn't know everything.
That was
He
funny.
knows that there's a process
Oh
that
yeah,
has to
he's
take
gonna
place.
watch film.
I
Blah
just
blah
think
blah
the
blah.
things that he
Years
Yeah,
later,
yeah.
Michael Vick says, "I never watched film."
physically, things that you just go out and learn.
But he feels
Since the
junky.
common draft since 1970, this is the 11th quarterback to go overall, number 1.
We had
2
4
years
day
ago
2
was
picks.
Tim Couch with the Browns. 3 years ago, of course, Peyton Manning with Indianapolis. Drew Bledsoe in 93 with the Patriots. Jeff George, one of the more interesting Mel stories over the year, went in 1990 with the Colts. Troy Aikman, that pick turned out,
Man,
I think, okay.
Michael
for
Vick
Dallas
looks
in
so much
89.
better in a
Then he
Falcons
tested
jersey than
Birdie
he
with the
ever would have
Bucs
in a
in
Chargers one, though.
1987.
Oh yeah,
John Elway
yeah. I
picked by the
can't.
Colts
I
for
literally
first
can't
pick
imagine
with
Michael
Denver.
Vick with a
Steve
Chargers uniform.
Bartkowski, yes, Atlanta did this 26 years ago. Jim Plunkett, 71.
Atlanta
with the
definitely
Patriots,
felt like
won
the
Super Bowls, but
natural
obviously
spot
it
for him.
with the Raiders,
I wish he would have
not
never
with
gotten
New
that
England,
situation with the
and the guy
Dogs,
named
man,
Terry
because I always
Bradshaw
wonder
won 4 Super Bowls.
how
He
far
drafted
could he
number
have
1 in
gone.
1976.
But honestly, he
Very
always
good
says
company.
Atlanta, like getting out of Atlanta was the best thing
Speaking
for
with
him
Butch
because
Davis, who coached at Miami,
he needed a
against
fresh
Michael
start.
Vick and Donovan McNabb. He used this comparison. He said he thought Vick had more quarterback skills than McNabb. But he also said he went golfing with Frank Beamer last year, and Beamer just raving about this kid's charisma. And as his teammates really love this guy.
You mentioned his ability to throw the football. The thing that I look at when I studied his workouts, and when you watch him go through this specific workout that he had, you'll see traits that quarterbacks have to learn. Here's the quickness going back. Now keep in mind, he is a lefty, and he's throwing the ball out to the right. Look at his feet turn. See how he turns his shoulders, gets the ball out quickly. I believe the hardest pass for a quarterback to throw any level is a little swing pass. And then you look at the timing of the route. He doesn't hesitate. The delivery is just a flick of the wrist. The ball comes out so easy, so comfortably, resets, anticipates. You see him loaded. The receiver hasn't turned around yet. He lets the ball go. There's the perfect intersection as the receiver comes out of his route. Those are the things that sold me on this young man as a quarterback.
But he is throwing against error there. I mean, I don't care, because I have had some very good coaches in this league, quarterback guys, that say they really have a big question mark on him. I will say that.
They always got question marks when the quarterback looks like us.
I think that's given, but the upside is tremendous.
1 sentence each. 3-4
They
years.
always got questions when it's us.
I think it's a roll of the dice type pick.
Joe? I absolutely think he will be at the level of a Dante Culpepper or a Donovan McNabb at least.
Mort, for once, I'm going to agree with Joe.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it. What will be the pack? Do we have a number on what this is going to be, dollar-wise?
Oh, it's going to be similar to that $40 to $50 million deal, although guaranteed money in the first 3 years is really the key thing. It'll be about $15 million guaranteed in the first 3 years, although he has given Atlanta an extra year in terms of when he voids that contract. The traditional number is void after 3. This one will be void after 4. And there are always 2 contracts in one when you do these deals.
26 years ago, we mentioned Steve Bartkowski was a very good quarterback for Atlanta, #1 overall. The first ever pick of this franchise was 1966. The history here. A lot of people don't follow the Falcons. Tommy Nobis. He was pretty darn good at middle linebacker. If Michael Vick can approach Nobis and Bartkowski, I think fans in Atlanta will be thrilled. I know Michael Vick is thrilled. Chris Fowler's thrilled that he's sitting with him. Hey, Chris.
Well, Chris, this is not Michael Vick's first draft. He was the 30th round amateur draft selection of the Colorado Rockies back in June. Michael, I imagine this is just a tad more exciting.
I miss quarterbacks getting drafted to baseball.
Oh, yeah, definitely. You know, it's very exciting. And, you know, it's something I always dreamed about. I always dreamed about walking that stage, you know, meeting Paul, and it all came true for me. You know, so I'm very excited, you know, very happy to be playing for Atlanta Falcons, and, you know, hopefully everything will go good for me.
What's your reaction to the trade? For probably a few months, you were envisioning yourself as a San Diego Charger. That suddenly changes on draft eve. Now the projections are you may play a lot sooner than you would have in San Diego.
Yeah, I always thought this throughout
Bro, it's cracking me up how many votes are in these live fan polls.
Made and my agent, you know, informed me that some trades may be made.
That should be like 100 to 200K now.
You know,
1,000.
And if I go in there and I have to play, then that's what I have to do. You know, that's what they're paying for.
Well, you had a redshirt year at Virginia Tech that was very.
I always wonder what if he would have gotten drafted by the Chargers. What if the Chargers didn't trade that pick?
Soon are you ready to step in and absorb the offense?
Well, first I have to learn.
Well, they wouldn't have LaDainian Tomlinson.
A whole lot more comfortable, you know, when I'm out there playing.
That's what I'm saying. Everything changes.
Yeah, Drew Brees. What happens with him?
Right. We're just Drew Brees end up.
College, you were kind of puzzled by
maybe he goes to New Orleans, like right off the bat. But then Sean Payton wasn't there though. Sean Payton wasn't there at this time. I don't think.
Does he ever get the same chance to start?
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, if the Chargers would have stayed and took Michael Vick, it could have changed the trajectory of almost every player in this draft.
Maybe a handful of games against top quality college competition. But have you ever reflected on how much money you made and how much your stock raised? One game against Florida State in that Sugar Bowl?
One game, you know, and my stock grew through the roof, you know, and you know, it was just Lord's blessing, you know, and I have to thank him, you know, for all of this. You know,
Michael, congratulations. Best of luck in Atlanta. Very happy guy. Chris, very relieved guy, too.
Hi, Chris and Michael. Congratulations. I mean, #1 pick in the draft. I mean, let's make this human for a minute. What a great moment, whether it's San Diego, whether it's Atlanta, or whether it's the Hartford grounds.
He said whether it's
the one thing I can say about Vic,
to Hartford, to our studios in
he was
Bristol,
more bulkier than Lamar coming
a
out.
bunch of wise men. Is that not right, Mike?
That's true, Chris. As we wait with Arizona on the clock, we're joined by Mike Golick. And Hank Goldberg, Sean Salisbury. I want to start with Ron Jaworski on the Michael Vick pick. Joe Theismann weighed in as another quarterback who's watched Michael Vick 20-1, just 21 games as a starter. What are your thoughts?
Well, he's a tremendous athlete. That's obvious when you watch him on television. I had an opportunity to study game tapes and how he reads defense, how he throws.
I miss Ron Jaworski breaking down.
He's light years away from being a polished NFL quarterback. He's only thrown 313 passes in his Virginia Tech career. That means he has a long way to go. Now, when I project a guy to the NFL, first, I want to see him make plays in the pocket. That's where you win championships. Once you make plays in the pocket, your running skills become secondary. Yes, he can run, but he's got to make plays in time with his wide receivers.
And also in college, in the offense he ran, he only had to look at half the field. They simpled it down for him a little bit. He read a safety in a corner, went to one side of the field. If he didn't like his options, he ran pretty quick, something that he's going to have to again, the hardest thing you quarterbacks would know, the hardest thing an NFL quarterback has to learn is patience in the pocket. He's a great athlete who's going to have to learn that.
And guys, we all agree with Chris Chandler being a little bit injury prone, that Michael Vick's more than likely going to have to play sooner than he's expected.
Can he do it? You looked him in the eye. You sat down and talked to him for a while.
You know, he told me that he said he didn't feel he was ready to play, that he wanted that cushion. But you know what? At $15 million a sign and going to the Atlanta Falcons, that was when he expected to go to the Chargers, that he's going to have to play. And here's what, though. This offense, let's give this kid a chance now. Jack Burns brings a little bit of the Washington Redskins, a little bit of the Vikings. They'll move him, little misdirection, throw the ball down the field. I'm just questioning one thing. We got to see how mentally and emotionally tough he is because he hasn't played that many games when things are going bad early on because Atlanta is not a very good football team right now.
Go ahead, the boomers say wise men are wise guys. Because I got the wise guy take on this, and that is attendance in Atlanta has been abysmal. How does this play into the equation? How tempted are they going to be to put him into the brink, you know, and help draw people?
Well, you know, he'll draw people. He's an exciting football player. And I play with perhaps the greatest running quarterback of all time, Randall Cunningham. Now, Randall Cunningham could run, but the problem is he used his legs too often.
Exactly.
And that's the problem you have with a running quarterback. Run second, play quarterback first.
One thing we know about Michael Vick, he is a hard worker, and that will start immediately in Atlanta. Back to Chris in New York.
Hold on a second, Joe.
Sounds like Lamar,
Hey,
don't it?
fellas, wise men, at least men. We'll get back up there. Arizona is on the clock with the second overall pick. There were lots of thoughts that they might trade. They have made a trade, which we will tell you in a moment. They have traded Aeneas Williams. This just did get done. Okay, Aeneas Williams is going to St. Louis, but we'll get to that in a minute. We suspect tackle Leonard Davis, Texas. Let's see.
With the second selection in the 2001 NFL Draft, the Arizona Cardinals select Leonard Davis, tackle from the University of Texas.
I think this was a bust. I think this pick didn't work out.
Yeah. Behind this, even though the Dave McGinnis is
I always like to go back and look at what happened with these guys.
The most important thing in my mind for Arizona, who gave us a brief glimpse a few years ago, they were a playoff team. They upset.
All right, so Leonard Davis,
Minnesota, and then they remembered they were the.
This is a pretty good pick. He played for the Arizona Cardinals for 1, 2.
And fell toward the bottom of the division. 3
He
and
played for
last year. But
the Cardinals from 2001 to 2006.
Which has Shelton on it, which has got.
And he started at least 16 games every year except for one.
Thomas Jones runs. If they have a big line,
did he play past the Cardinals?
Going again,
he did. After the Cardinals, he went to Dallas, and he finished his career with the Dallas. He played 4 years with Dallas, and then 1 year with San Francisco. So he actually did have a good career. It was another guy I was thinking about. It wasn't him.
2-to-1 interceptions to
but yeah, this was a good pick
in his career in the National Football League. It isn't because he didn't have guys.
He's a big guy, man.
For him. It isn't because the system was so difficult. He struggled with
big
the
jersey for a big
process.
Man.
Certainly, this move allows them. Think about it. They can move L.J. Shelton down to guard.
That's all fine, Joe.
You talk about a big offensive line, but I think the whole thing still revolves around.
You don't even think he's the best old lineman.
No, I think
I like that. Like the more things change, the more they stay the same. Like Cardinals struggling with offensive line.
Jones as well. They're gonna have to outscore people. Joe, that defensive line is really suspect. Aeneas Williams moves.
Falcons looking to get fans in the season.
He's sitting there. Let's take a look at him. 6'6", 370. Does he play like 370 or does he play like 320? And you know the kind of question
Go
I'm
find
asking.
Jonathan Ogden. I mean, that's basically everybody.
He's not Jonathan Ogden.
I'm not saying he is. I'm talking about size. You take a look at his size here. He sets up. He just dominates. If he can't get in front of people, it's just going to take so long for people to go around him. And he certainly can open huge holes. I mean, he's a massive man, and that's part of, I think, the big. To me, that's a big attraction.
Show the game that Roy did it was the job he did against Justin Smith, and that's all great. And I think you look at Leonard Davis, I think the instincts as a pro-style pass blocker need to be developed. If he moves inside, he gets his hands on you, he can maul you. He can certainly assist that running game, but he's got a long way to go in pass protection, Joe, from an instinctive standpoint. Former defensive line.
Let me add something here. Dave McGinnis, and you hit on something. I spoke with Dave McGinnis, and he was telling me why it would probably be Leonard Davis, which is their defense does have a lot of holes. Their offense, he really feels, is close. It has a chance, if it comes together, to be he hopes, a dominating offense. Obviously, the key's Jake Plummer, but he made some coaching changes as well, and he's hoping all these things come together. So if you can't really fix the defense, if the safest pick, when you're picking a side, is a guy like Leonard Davis, then go ahead and do it and see how good you can get on offense.
And they got Pete Kendall and they're just trying to. Boy, for years they loaded up on the defensive line, and for one reason or another, they're hardly there, or they're certainly not healthy. Now, the man that has been there for Arizona through all of the horribles, and let's make no mistake about it, all of the down years, perennial Pro Bowler Aeneas Williams is now moving on and has a chance to play in the big game at the end of this year, pending a physical, 3-year deal, reported at perhaps $14.7 million. Contingent on the physical. In exchange, Aeneas Williams was 32, 33.
Still playing well.
Right, still playing very well. Arizona gets the low second, the original St. Louis second, and a 4th-round pick that came yesterday from Oakland. Low 2, low 4. Hey, they did the right thing by Aeneas Williams. They really say, we're not going to sign you. We can send you somewhere else. We're giving you a chance to play.
It's crazy to trade in division.
So Aeneas Williams' career as a Cardinal ends.
Damn, look at those graphics.
Career as a Cardinal begins. Up next, Cleveland. They could go a lot of directions, including a trade. This will be interesting. We'll be back. Well, this Cleveland Browns, they're on the clock. They got 9 minutes to go. There's a lot of things we're going to discuss here, including dealing with a lot of players. But in Atlanta, they're discussing only one thing, and that's Michael Vick. Let's go down to Hotlanta with Scott Walker. Scott, obviously enthusiasm for a day now.
Absolutely, Boomer. And Dan Reeves, good enough to join us here, coming down from the war room. And obviously, you said there's relief here as well. 18 years ago, you were in a similar situation. John Elway was the player. What do you learn from that situation and Elway's development that you'll use here with Michael Vick and making him the quarterback you think he can be?
Well, I think, first of all, both of them have the things that you see, that look at the athletic ability and those types of things. And we were very fortunate in that John had those things that you couldn't really see. A great desire to be successful, great competitiveness, the ability to learn your system and want to be successful. And I think Michael Vick has these things, but that's going to be the real key to determine how good this young man is going to be, because he has a tremendous amount of athletic talent. And I think the fact that he is so competitive is really going to help him be able to play quickly.
You met with him a couple of weeks ago. Was that the meeting that showed you that he had those intangible abilities?
I think, first of all, the fact that he would come in here when you think you're going to be the first pick in the draft, and we had the 5th pick, for him to come in here said something to me, that he had his feet on the ground and realized there were a lot of different things could possibly happen in the National Football League. And he came in and he fit in. We had about 20 players in here, and he really fit in very well with everybody and had a good time, and was very impressive. And I think that's the thing that he has all the football talent, but the type of person he is off the field is so important too.
Everyone wants to know, when will we see him on the field? Will we see him on the field in a position other than quarterback?
Oh, well, that I don't know. We're going to try to get him ready. I think it's our responsibility as a coaching staff to try to get him ready as quickly as we possibly can and make sure he's ready to play when we put him in the football game.
I'm sure everyone's here is excited. Dan Reeves, thanks for joining us. We send it now back to Chris Fowler.
I hit him with the other position.
Right after Michael Vick, big Leonard Davis out of Texas, headed to the Arizona Cardinals. You're looking at the baby of 21 brothers and sisters, and the pride of Worthing, Texas. I guess about 1,000 people have gathered watching a big screen TV.
They say 21 brothers and sisters.
I just want to say, thanks for all the support.
Yeah, that's insane.
I really appreciate it. And, growing up with people and having the relationships And I just want to thank them all.
That man
for
got
that.
a whole roster.
You know what a demanding position tackle in the NFL can be, going against the best pass rushers in the world. If there is one question, they say Leonard might not be mean enough, might not be nasty enough. But do you have a war face, Michelle? Do you have a mean streak?
I have a mean streak, and I'm able to turn it on.
Look at the fans out here voting for LaDainian Tomlinson to be the Browns
field,
pick.
I'm a nice guy, but when I get on the field, I'm going out and trying to just take somebody's head off.
This guy's been 300 pounds, I think,
Big
since
country.
8th grade. So you've always known what it is to be big. Now you'll know what it is to be rich. Congratulations. Leonard Davis, to Arizona Cardinals. Chris?
If he's been big for a long time, Chris, then he understands what it means to be big, and the Cardinals hope he plays big. The Cleveland Browns,
I don't
last
think they
year,
said anything
after
about
all
his
the pomp
game.
and
It said he's
circumstance of
super
getting
big.
back in the NFL, one of the most storied franchises.
So
in the
Browns
National Football
on the
League.
clock.
Last year, Tim Couch got hurt.
They always
bottom
on the
fell
clock.
out. They couldn't move the ball at all on offense. Defensively, they started to improve, but when you
Will
can't
this
move
be
the
one of
ball
those
at all,
times
offense, eventually
a
the
broken
defense,
clock was
it
right?
just totally ran out of gas. The
Will
Cleveland
be
Browns
those
at
2 times a
3-13 have a
day.
healthy Tim Couch, and they have a new coach. They have Butch Davis, who was the coach, a defensive mentor, a great college coach at Miami of Florida.
Trust, where you
and a
at?
coach who we are now looking at, and we have an idea what it is, but I'm going to throw out a bunch of names. Now looking at defensive linemen, even though they drafted Courtney Brown last year, they're now looking at perhaps a wide receiver because they don't have a lead receiver. They got a couple of nice receivers at running back. I mean, they could use everything. They could use everything. Is there a play? Just your grades. Is there one that stands out for you?
And the Browns have never
I
changed.
think we can slide down possibly in New England.
Once
guys,
could
but
use
I think
everything.
Gerard Warren. You put him
Next year
to
they could
Courtney
use
Brown.
everything.
Everybody says, well, you have Tim Couch, you need the running back, you need the wide receiver. What about Courtney Brown? He's your focal point of your defense. You put a Gerard Warren, Richard Seymour's names come up. I have them down the line just a bit. I think you need a Gerard Warren to really stabilize things and really just jam that middle and complement Courtney Brown.
You know what? It's interesting. 2 other names were out there by the Browns all week long, other than Warren. Let's see what they do.
With the third choice in the 2001 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns select Gerard Warren, defensive tackle in Florida.
Well, the reason I threw out what I did, and we had a little premonition it might be Warren, you're smart, is that it's interesting. Some can when they're bluffing, others you can't. The Browns had Seymour's name and Terrell's name, the wide receiver, both outstanding players, but they said Butch doesn't like Gators.
Yeah, right.
Guess what? He's a pro coach now. We can get over it more.
He played against Gerard Warren. I spoke to Butch about Warren, and I had one coach tell me that if you want Gerard Warren, it's like getting Warren Sapp. And Butch said, not quite. Warren Sapp was more athletic, more foot. Warren Sapp came to Miami as a tight end. But he said, this Gerard Warren, more explosive, more powerful. And don't forget the division they play in. Even though there's going to be realignment, it's still the Pittsburgh Steelers. You're still going to play smash mouth football with some of these teams, and you need a big, stout, big guy, 327 pounds.
We have to also take a look. What did they do in free agency? I think we're sitting here talking about the draft, but how do you help your football team? They bring in a Mark Smith. Okay, he was a good, solid player in Arizona when they got him to show up. I mean, he just had to come and show
Our
up.
AFC
Dwayne
North
Wright bring him as a
back-to-back.
linebacker. You added Ross Verba to the offensive line. All of a sudden, this team starts to take some shape. Now you've got your solid number 1 pick from last year, a good guy inside, and you start to get it going. When you take a
look at this,
they were lighting their
guys.
rear
Guys, you talk about strength. Obviously, 6'4", 325, you're going to be strong. Gerard Warren with Courtney Brown on the outside and Gerard Warren on the inside. You just hope, and I don't mean to put pressure on these guys, but I remember a defensive end named Deacon Jones and a defensive tackle named Merlin Olsen, and the Rams were pretty good for about 12 years, weren't they? I know that's a reach.
You know what I like about this?
There's the strategy.
Is Dwight Clark a receiver, right? They're looking at Gerard Warren, David Terrell, the Michigan wide receiver. Dwight Clark was the guy who I think helped encourage Butch to go ahead with defense. Hey, I was taken in the 10th round. We'll find somebody.
Gerard Warren played 4 seasons with the Browns, 2 seasons with the Broncos, 3 seasons with the Raiders, and 2 seasons with the New England Patriots.
Oh, I agree. I think when you start getting tandems together, I always think of Leonard
So he
Marshall and
lasted.
Lawrence Taylor. When you start putting tandems together on the defensive
survived the
line,
Browns.
it's tough to deal with.
He
And
did.
you take a look at what they have as far as their defensive line goes. Orpheus Roy, solid. Stalin Colonnade, solid. Keith McKenzie, Courtney Brown. Now Gerard Williams gets sprinkled in. You don't see teams play 4 defensive linemen anymore anyway. But there's a rotation that's
But what about Tim Couch? This is a team that its offense was dreadful last year. 30th, 31st in this league. And you do need help from Tim Couch.
But I want to tell you, guys, you might think this is going to be a statement. I'm sure it's going to get some reaction. I don't think Curtis Enos is done. I think he's okay to come in there and fill a role for them. And I'm sure they can get a receiver.
Very seldom in the NFL does a running back develop down the line. Running backs, if they're gifted, they usually jump out as soon as they come in.
They played him long last year. They played him at the fullback position. He was out of position.
Let's see what they do top of the second round.
Running back. They will take a running back at the top of the second round. They're going to be staring a lot of good running backs in the face.
Receivers forward, there'll be some good receivers there. But the tackled Arizona, another huge man, Gerard Warren, defensive tackle Cleveland. And now we come to a team that we always come to in the first hour of the draft, the Cincinnati Bengals. For the 7th time in the last 10 years, now 7 times in 10 years, the Bengals have a pick in the top 6. Now, sooner or later, they're going to bust loose. Sooner or later.
They're going to bust
last year
loose.
They picked Peter Warwick, who they hope will
Sooner or
energize their
later.
offense. He's
You
an
just wait.
interesting player. They could
Still
trade,
waiting.
but I don't know if they really know how. Should they go just a big offensive talent? What do they do?
Good old AFC Central days.
Last year, new stadium, same Bengals. Conslin out, Dick LeBeau in. Corey Dillon, oh, by the way, broke Walter Payton's rushing record for a single game, 278 yards. Achilles Smith looked like Achilles' heel. We saw Peter Warwick at times show the flashes that we know he is capable of. But the Cincinnati Bengals
Peter
are
Warwick, bro, that
still
was my guy.
looking for some movement. They were outscored by almost 200 points.
Achilles Smith
They lost more games
looked
than
like
anybody
Achilles
in the
Hill.
90s. What did they do?
They did him dirty.
They've spent time with 4 players. Leonard Davis, Kenyatta Walker, Justin Smith, the defensive end from Missouri, and surprisingly, Drew Brees of Purdue. Now, I think maybe Brees, second round. Yeah, that's the 4 guys they spent time with.
He had to be on his way going somewhere. I mean, he just sort of stopped in Cincinnati. They got
Indiana, they changed planes.
Somewhere they were moving. Somewhere.
Damn, they dogged Drew Brees.
You know, Kitten is there, but you had 1 sack out of Booker and Copeland. You had no production out of your defensive ends.
Yeah, someone said Chris Berman is the GOAT. Yes, he is.
With the
Chris
fourth
Berman
choice
is
in
absolutely
the
the GOAT.
first
I
round
hate that he doesn't do the
2001
draft anymore.
Cincinnati Bengals select Justin Smith, defensive end from Missouri.
Now, you talked about some picks
That looks like a Justin
that
Smith.
you were not sure of. This young man.
He said, listen, now, he was a great pick. He
Yeah.
played a lot of good years with the
My
49ers.
God, you know exactly what you're getting here. I mean,
I think he was on their Super Bowl team that we played against in 2012.
Man, the pictures between like 1998 to 2004 always looks like the players are being held hostage.
Yep, he was on the 49ers in 2012 when we played them in the Super Bowl.
And this is guy, it's interesting when you talk to teams about this guy, boy, it was love him or lukewarm on him, and you love his attitude, you love his motor, but I also hear people say 32.5-inch arms. There's only been 1 defensive lineman in the last 10 years who's had any success with 32.5-inch arms and 32-inch arms. I mentioned Marcellus Wiley.
What's up?
That was only 1 year.
Do you remember this guy, Justin Smith?
No.
He was on the 49ers in 2012 when they played the Ravens. He was like one of their main defensive linemen.
Oh, that's him?
Well, the other side of it, too, when you look at
He was
the
drafted by the
Cincinnati
Bengals.
They only had 9 interceptions. They were 30th in the league. They had 26 sacks. You say that sacks
I wonder
in
who the
college
Chargers
level maybe
picked.
not a factor. It certainly is a factor.
I wonder who the Chargers
picked.
picked.
That causes the interceptions. I think it's an excellent choice.
I heard
for
there's
them.
some guys
It's a
out
way to
there.
start
I
building
heard there's a
the
couple
other
of
side
guys
the
still on the
ball.
board. You know,
Yeah.
He did both.
could probably help a little bit.
Let's see what the fan vote says.
But he also had some sacks. Look, he gives you the both. I think he's not a one-dimensional player at all.
You know what? Peter Warwick last year, Justin Smith this year. I like those picks. Do you? It's combined. I like it.
Listen, it's always when it's
Justin
the Bengals
Smith does
starting
not
to
look
go.
happy.
I really believe.
He's like, man, I'm a Bengal.
I think if Goff had been in
He's like,
Cincinnati,
shit.
he might be struggling. If it was Donovan McNabb in Cincinnati,
Really?
he might be struggling.
You just tell me I bust my, you know what, all my life just to be a Bengal?
I was
Until they
so
settle in,
happy. I was so
Bob Gronkowski is now
happy
the
when the first
offensive
team
coordinator.
from
They
Ohio
added
passed
John
them.
Kitna as a quarterback. Now,
I guess.
John out in San Diego, I think
He like,
You
I
were
guess.
like-
He like, I guess.
upgraded that
I
position.
guess
Between
I'm a
Achilles
Bengal.
Smith and
All
Scott
right,
Mitchell,
I'm an
they
NFL.
got nothing out of the quarterback.
What point does Achilles Smith become?
Oh
a
yeah,
starting
every
quarterback?
year.
I think it's still a question. I really think it's a
You're
question.
looking at Justin Smith. That's the first time.
He's like, wow, I
from
can't believe
Missouri's
this is
gone in the
actually
first round in
happening.
over a decade. 1987. Remember the big tackle?
I'm unhappy to be a Bengal.
Was the pick there. And now, when that card went up,
Everything out of me, they ain't gonna get nothing out of me.
I remember that when they used to have the whole
Believe that.
family up there,
first
holding
round
the
are
jerseys,
now
the whole
the San
family.
Diego Chargers.
They don't really do that no more.
They ain't gonna get nothing out of me. Believe that. Believe that.
Nah, you did.
A chance to draft LaDainian Tomlinson.
They ain't gonna get nothing out of me, Matt. Believe that. Believe that.
New general manager.
Believe that.
Mike
They ain't
Riley,
getting
the
nothing out of me.
holdover coach. San Diego has a new quarterback. We're in the war room. There's John, and he has to be thrilled.
Look at these old commercials. Yo, I
These
love
old
it.
commercials.
Look at the old computer.
Yo.
That man got a virus.
So that's that man. That's a woman.
Want to get away?
Want to get away? That was the old Southwest commercial.
Man, $39 for a flight.
I know, $39.
That was a steal.
Take me back. I was in high school, so I wasn't really flying nowhere this time. But
all about all-wheel drive. It's like
look at
you
this.
buy 4 wheels, then make them all drive.
The nostalgia from the old commercials, bro. Like this
Look
was
at that
life.
snowball fight.
Now during the Pontiac 75th anniversary, get $1,000 cash back.
2001 Pontiac.
And a camping package at no extra charge.
Okay, it's where my car's from. You might see a Honda Civic commercial.
That's pain.
Well, this is our Dr. Scholl's massaging gel.
The Dr. Scholl's.
The massaging wave system gives you more cushioning than regular gel ever could before.
It relieves
$39 is crazy. Somebody said $39.
The only thing zestier than
Look
eating a
at
crunchy
the
taco
Taco Bell
is
commercial.
eating 2 crunchy taco
From
Bells.
Jokic is getting drafted.
99 cents.
99 cents. 2 tacos for 99
Crunchy
cents.
tacos for 99 cents.
Hey, that'll fill you up.
Get them at the Bell.
Damn, the nostalgia.
The nostalgia.
From the early 2000s.
San Diego's on the clock, and they are just thrilled that the Cleveland Browns, for one, did not pick a running
Well, I
back.
wish I could give me a flight for $39 right now.
San Diego's pick.
Yeah, I should have bought a head.
Tonight in video conferences, we bring in the new coach of the Cleveland Browns, Butch Davis. So you see, Butch, not only are you
Look at these
welcome to
graphics,
the NFL
man.
as a head coach, you're the first on one of these video conferences.
Oh, look at the
tonight.
video conference.
Welcome to the NFL, and I know you don't expect to come here.
He's so welcome to the NFL.
Well, Chris, it's great to be here, and obviously it's a great day for us. We're really excited, and the pick, obviously, with Gerard Warren, I think it maybe caught a lot of people by surprise, but our entire organization, coaches, everybody, the scouts, management, everybody really felt like that was the best pick.
Well, you saw him up close in college for a long time.
Yada, yada,
What
yada.
stood out more than anything else about Warren to you?
We don't need to hear about the bands.
It was horrible, and they just wanted one win, and they finally got it against the Chiefs. Ironically, off the foot of John Connie, Sheila McCray. Good night, everybody. but Carney won't even be their kicker next year. They've gone with Richie. The San Diego Chargers, though, have done a makeover. John Butler is the new general manager. Mike Riley is still the head coach, but Norv Turner, offensive guru, worked with Butch Davis under Jimmy, of course. He is the new offensive coordinator. So a new feel, and a guy named Doug Flutie at quarterback. Ed Werder, it's hard to get a crowd and a city set about a 1-15 team. But yet I think now, okay, they traded.
Let's see what.
Yeah.
Look at young Treadleton.
Well, John Butler obviously
Young Treadleton
back when he was
very
small
well
Trez.
and knew everybody else's draft board ahead of him very well because the guy they really wanted all along once they couldn't come
Bro, all the fans are voting to
trade number one overall
take LT.
was TCU running back LaDainian Tomlinson.
They used to call me Hercules.
So notice what he said. Well, they couldn't come to terms with Michael Vick, right? So back then the rookie salary was so high, you had to negotiate with the rookies, and if you couldn't get a contract done, you would either draft someone else or trade the pick because you couldn't afford to pay the guy who you drafted. That's why after the CBA, during the lockout, I think when the early 2007 year, 2008, they did away with the rookie salary cap. Sam Bradford was like the last one to really get the big.
Yeah, that's where they learned their lesson with Sam Bradford.
Yeah, Sam Bradford.
Like
Sam Bradford got a bag, boy.
Yeah. Running back LaDainian Tomlinson, who is
they
there,
said, all
and
right,
is
never again.
To be their selection to improve a running game that was the worst in the NFL. This will add an elite runner. And North Turner, the offensive coordinator, feels very confident that they will be able to run the football successfully. I think you'll see a much greater commitment to the running game. And North Turner, Chris, has had a Pro Bowl running back in 6 of his last 10 years. And 5 of those years, he also had a Pro Bowl quarterback.
And they have
little did they know.
You're ready if Tomlinson is the pick, which let's just go out on a limb and say that it's going to be the pick, okay? They've gambled, and so far they have won. And how they use their 3 and how they use their 2 for guys who can get on the field immediately this year will be, you know what, while we're waiting 2 years for Vic to play while we have Flutie, we're actually making a move in the AFC West, and it's smart. Let's see.
They're chanting LT. That's crazy.
In the first round of the 2001 draft, the San Diego Chargers select LaDainian Tomlinson, running back from TCU.
Yo, so who was the NFL commissioner then?
That was Paul Tagliabue.
Oh, okay.
2 weeks ago, I had a
when
conversation with John Butler.
Goodell go in office.
He openly fantasized
Man said that like a presidency
for this draft, which was love to make a trade, get the number 2 or 3, and end up with LaDainian Tomlinson. He said, Mort, as much as I love Jim
like
Kelly,
I swear, every single picture from back then, 1998 to 2004.
Look at LT.
Just drafted Thurman.
Oh my gosh.
5,000 yards rushing in his career.
You look at the way he runs the football. Now,
The one TCU bull horn frog that worked out, man.
You can see there.
Bro, I saw one of his games live on TV when he was at TCU. I was like, yo, this dude is the truth.
There's the eye. There he is hitting the hole again. Great balance. You have to remember.
Like he was going crazy on. They had put it on ESPN one night, and he was going crazy against somebody. And I was like, yo, this dude. I was like, damn, the Ravens got to get him. Of course, we don't get guys like this.
We don't get guys like that.
Right, we should have got LaDainian Tomlinson. This is bullcrap. The league's trying to screw us.
But we got Jamal Lewis the year before this, so we was good. But still, I wanted LT. We won the Super Bowl, mind you. We won the Super Bowl the year before this, so that's why the Ravens are picking 31st because they won the Super Bowl.
49 times in one game last year, 36 times in one game.
Wait, so when did Goodell go in? When he became the commissioner?
Goodell took over.
You also saw the option incorporating that offense.
I want to say
Rashawn Slop, option back. He struggled, guys, and I think what really
after like 2000. I don't know. I can look it up.
Tuesday practice in Mobile, Mort. He put on a show. The first division and the combine with that 4.44 and that 40 vertical. I think he did everything right since the end of the season to become the 5th pick overall.
And from the end of the season
since 2006.
There's a lot of debate. Is it Tomlinson? Is it Deuce McAllister? Is it Michael Bennett?
I still like
since that senior. I know, but since that Senior Bowl, though.
So what you're saying is we're due.
From the pack, most of the pack, and this is the guy that basically has and ran 4-4.
Let me just say something. We saw.
He's been the commissioner since before ours came in town.
Number 5 in college. He's gone with the 5th overall pick in the first round. So already there's a good.
Before the Texans were there.
The last time San Diego had the 5th overall pick in the first round, 1990, Junior Seau, who conveniently wears number 55. So 5 is the low number a Charger wins next year. They're going to go 7-9 with Flutie and Tomlinson. They've got a pretty good defense. If they'd only bring back.
This man's a big Flutie fan.
I know you can't do it this year.
He's brought up Flutie a lot in this.
San Diego. Yesterday, you
and playing at San Diego. I'm so happy right now. It's unbelievable.
You've been through a 1-10 season. The Chargers also won one game. And I know you have kind of a secret plan. You're a very goal-oriented guy. You came to TCU with the plan for college and almost followed it to the letter.
Right.
The NFL, your plan does involve the playoffs and perhaps playing a game in Hawaii at the end of that. But it's going to be tough. You know you're part of a rebuilding program. And in a way, it's starting over what you went through at TCU.
Right. You know, I enjoy that. I love to have a chance to be on a team that's rebuilding. You know, I've dealt with it my whole career at TCU, and there's nothing different here. You know, I know what it takes, like I said, and I'm looking forward to the challenge.
You know the rap by some, well, he's too short. He may not be a franchise back. The stopwatch says he doesn't have top 5 or top 6 quickness. Because you love to prove people wrong. You've been doing that.
He said that's the classic big suits.
Yeah, I saw that.
You know, and the thing about it, no one ever said you have to be 6 feet to be a running back. You know, I got a lot of heart, and a lot of people see that.
What do you need to work on in the NFL the next level? A lot of backs come in, and not everybody succeeds. Let's face it, there's a lot of busts at that position. What do you think you need to work on?
Well, I think I just need to continue to work hard. I think I need to outwork people, you know, work on picking up defense blitzes, doing some pass routes out the backfield, all kinds of things that I can get better, man-to-man, beating the linebacker, or even the safety, things like that.
Wish you the best. It's been fun watching your career, one of the top 5 or 6 all-time rushers in college football. Another rebuilding job ahead of you, LaDainian Tomlinson. We wish you the best out in San Diego. Yes.
I wonder how he does.
Here's a young man that just give me the ball. Let me put it on my shoulders. So for you fans of the TCU Horned Frog,
The Patriots are now on the clock.
This is the first Horned Frog to go in the first round since Norm Big Blue Goulash, 1970. Now we remember him, Joe. Mort, you're too young to remember Norm. Although it was in your time. That was the grandson of Alex and the son of Dean. That was young John Spanos giving him the uniform. And I do want to clear up one other thing for San Diego. Their evaluation as Michael Vick as a player or a person, that didn't go down anywhere. That trade was made hoping that this would happen. It might be out there that San Diego didn't think of him that highly as what kind of maybe player or somehow. I've read some things this morning that San Diego never said, that it never got out that way. So they want to make sure that they hope both guys excel in the NFL. And of course, we do as well. We now move on to year 2 of Bill Belichick as head coach of the New England Patriots, a team that was in the Super Bowl
What will Bill Belichick
a handful
do?
of years ago. But a team that fell to the bottom of the very competitive AFC East. Andrea Kramer is in St. Louis, and I can't believe with all the draft picks St. Louis has and what's been going on there, she actually has time to think about New England. But Andrea, I do know that they took a look at Warren at the end of this week. Obviously, he's gone. They need to press the envelope a little bit down the middle of the field. They can do it in several ways. Good morning, Andrea. Good afternoon, Andrea. What do you have?
Well, remember, Chris, they have phones everywhere. It doesn't matter how many picks you have. But yes, you're talking about the holes that they had on offense. But remember that on defense, a lot of needs to fill as well. They lost Chad Eaton to the Seahawks. They released Henry Thomas. I think who the Patriots are thinking about is Georgia defensive tackle Richard Seymour. He's got great size, very versatile. He could be a 4-3 tackle, a 4-3 end.
Hall of Famer.
Center, nose tackle.
Yep.
Richard Seymour.
A lot of holes to fill, but
I think he turns out decent.
the Patriots are thinking about first and foremost at the 6th slot.
All right, well, that would certainly add up. Bill Belichick, Andrea, defensively, guys, and Mel and Moore.
So count the first rounder so far. We got LaDainian Tomlinson.
A little higher, or do you got to go get a guy?
We got Richard Seymour. We got Drew Brees coming up in the 2nd round, by the way.
Look at it, guys. You got Drew Brees. You surround him with the David Terrell, with Corin Robinson.
Santana Moss.
Michael Vick wasn't a Hall of Famer, but he was really good.
Santana Moss, Deuce McAllister.
You think about Bill Belichick.
Yeah, Deuce. Oh, Deuce. Deuce is loose.
That were won in New York.
The Deuce is loose.
As good as the teams were with the Jets. He is a terrific defensive football coach. I would think if he had his druthers, they feel like they can stop people from scoring. You've got Drew Bledsoe now signed for
but you don't score many points, Joe. Too many 10s and 13s.
But
they were the other end of the scoreboard.
You will be better, and I believe eventually they're going to have to find a running back.
Mel Kiper was about talking that shit back then.
Find someone somewhere.
I just wonder whether they plan for David Terrell.
He hated everyone.
Because this is probably because they're clearly looking at Richard Seymour. Butch Davis loved Richard Seymour. He's 20 years old. He's athletic. He's got to learn how to play the run a little bit more, but he will get upfield. But David Terrell, got to be tempting when you got Drew Bledsoe.
Well, the Patriots are there. They've invested huge money in Drew Bledsoe, so he will finish his career as a New England Patriot. Will he have some toys to play with on offense? Here's the pick.
Yeah, that is until Tom Brady takes over.
Yeah.
2001 draft, the New England
You don't know him
Patriots
yet. You
select
haven't had the
Richard
chance.
Seymour, defensive tackle from Georgia.
Well, so we've had 3 defensive linemen go in the first 6 picks, which isn't really a surprise. Richard Seymour, you talk about a size.
The Patriots should go back to those uniforms.
Oh, man. The fans
Those
don't
are fire.
agree. The fans wanted to take David Terrell.
I know.
Powerful.
I think they'll like it long term.
Hands and feet for a guy this size, Mel.
What he is, Chris, is a guy who has
Chad
tremendous
Johnson.
wingspan. I think you look at a guy like Richard Seymour
Hall
going
of
back to his
Famer.
sophomore year. This is against Tennessee. He had 12 tackles as a junior, 9 this past season. You know, Phil Palmer and the Volunteers are glad to see Richard Seymour move on to the NFL.
This is a great draft. I think Steve Smith came out of this draft. Chad Johnson came out of this draft.
Has to become more of a finisher.
Deuce McAllister, LaDainian Tomlinson, Michael Vick, Richard Seymour. Yeah. Crazy. Y'all know who the Ravens drafted this year?
I do.
You do?
Yeah.
Hey, Trust, you know who the Ravens took this year?
20 years old.
They took what's his face? I know you're talking about no, actually, no, I don't.
Well, they need
What
help
they
a
take?
lot of places.
2001.
That even at the beginning of the year when
And playback, do y'all know who the Ravens took in this draft?
I mean, you gotta, if you were building
YouTube, Twitter, tell me. Who did the Ravens draft in 2001?
There aren't any easy chalk wins in this division. You better be able to muster up on both sides of the offensive and defensive line. The offensive line is changing over, and as you mentioned, Eaton gone. That's changed.
He's also been on the screen at one point during this play.
As we move on here, now we are at the portion of the draft where the first of 2 picks for the Seattle Seahawks and Mike Holmgren and company.
Ms. Gina says, I have no idea.
Anyone in this offseason,
Hold on, I'm
changing
trying to think.
the whole field.
I'm going to give a clue.
2 years
You
ago,
kind
Don't
of did
cheat.
already.
but last year
He was a fan favorite.
Now you have to wonder.
The Goose?
Even though Mike Holmgren and many who are
Who?
offensive minded.
No,
say,
no.
I'd rather go with a big guy than a
It wasn't-
receiver
no, it wasn't.
this high.
He was a
He
fan
didn't really
favorite.
have a
But
big
one of
time
the big
receiver.
guys just went, Seymour.
All the big guys.
And here's David
Yeah,
Terrell.
but I think you really have to stop. I mean, again, you have to look beyond that and say, what did Mike Holmgren do in Seattle? What did he do on his football team? The part that he went after was the defensive side. So
Ms.
maybe
Gina
here
says
in the
Terrell
draft,
Suggs.
bring that
No.
offense.
Let's look at your list, Mel.
Terrell Suggs was a top 10 pick. The Ravens are picking 31st in this draft because they had just won the Super Bowl the year before this. The season before this, they won the Super Bowl. There you go, Sean.
When a third-year sophomore is
Todd
Heat.
Heat.
Yeah,
Todd Heat.
I was going to say, you were
Yeah,
already
yeah.
giving a hit when you
Heat,
did this.
yeah, Heat.
You started it with that, and I'm like, nah, man, give it away right now.
Remember Terrell, stress fracture, then the injury.
Ms. Dean said, oh, I wasn't paying attention.
I think the questions about those 2 underclassmen, the reasons they're still on the board right now.
Mike Holmgren and Brett Favre.
Keep one of them ones.
This is a great draft, actually, when you think about all the players.
Sterling Sharp.
Yeah.
You got Todd Heat with the 31st pick of the draft, the last pick, the
Weren't
first round.
necessarily home runs, although Sterling certainly hit many. A big receiver. Terrell and Robinson fit. I'm going to guess it's going to be David Terrell, but we have Mike and the Wise Men, or at least Mike and the Men, up in Bristol.
Just a guess, I'm sure, Chris. Thanks. You know, when you talk wide receivers since '96, in the first round, 20 receivers have been taken.
Oakland at 12-4, Denver at 11-5, atop the division, which a year ago, once removed, was won by the Seahawks. The Seahawks fell back. Mike Holmgren has been coach of the year. San Francisco.
Matt Hasselbeck, John Randall.
Well, there's a trade.
We got a trade. 49ers trading up.
Defense. Let's just, while this is up
Who are the
there,
49ers trading up to get?
because it's a little high to pick a receiver.
Damn,
Well,
Seattle had got Levon Kirkland.
Let's go back to that for one more minute.
They was
Here are
loading
the
up.
moves that Seattle made.
Yeah.
Joe mentioned Matt Hasselbeck. He's going to be the starting quarterback from Green Bay. Let's go back and see Chad Eaton, John Randall, the perennial Pro Bowler, on the defensive line. Marcus Robertson is
Oh,
going
they
to
got-
play safety for the Seahawks.
They got John
Levon
Randall this year.
Kirkland is going to play linebacker.
Yeah, and they got Matt Hasselbeck now. Come
And
on.
Levon Kirkland. They was loading up.
Made on defense, and now he's going to get, I guess, an extra pick as soon as we get details of the trade between the 49ers
I forgot John Randall played for Seattle.
That's why they would move ahead of Chicago.
I still think about him in Minnesota. Like, I forgot he played for Seattle.
We've seen 2 divisional trades in this draft. That's crazy.
What happened?
I know. That's why when I always hear people say, well, no one's going to trade with us in the division in the playoffs. I mean, in the draft. That's different. The draft is different than, like, trading
to make this move to Seattle because
a
he
player.
wanted one guy, and you've been talking about him, Andre Carter. When I spoke to Steve Mariucci last night, and we know how effusive Mooch can be, he said, I love Andre Carter. Remember, Mariucci recruited Carter to Cal when he was there. He loves his size, the wingspan. He's an edge player. This is completely an area of need for them, defensive line, getting production from the defensive end. So they made the move up to get Andre Carter from Cal. Back to you, Chris.
All right, Andrea, and you pointed out he never played for Mooch, but he recruited him, and then that was the year Mooch moved on to San Francisco. And there's pretty good heritage here as well, which we'll explain in a moment.
With the 7th pick in the 2001 draft, acquired by trade from Seattle, the San Francisco 49ers select Andre Carter, defensive end from California.
Andre.
First of all, they don't have to pay moving expenses. I mean, that's the most important thing. You just some mileage, drive across.
Wow, Andre Carter, man.
For some gas,
down to 49.
You don't even fill your tank up. Here's a quarter tank.
Look, they drafted almost everyone defense last year. But an Andre Carter, Andre put Mooch was in the home recruiting him. And I want to put, this is the son of one of the best, one of the best all-time nose tackles to ever play in the NFL, and that's Reuben Carter. And all you have to do is sit with Tom Jackson for 14 years, hear about how good Reuben is.
Steve Smith was in this class. I'm looking at the late round picks right now.
Yeah, I told you, him and Chad Johnson as well. Crazy trade. This is a crazy draft.
There's been a lot of talk last 24 hours about
TJ Houshmandzadeh.
Which meant
Yep.
if you wanted Andre Carter, you had to pretty much go to this 7th spot.
Cincinnati actually had a good draft.
250, Mel, not, prototypical for weight, correct?
Well, you're talking about the 250 to 265 area, Chris. I think you look at Rob Burnett and Michael McCrary at Baltimore, and you see the success that they've had at a similar weight. You look at the productivity over 4 years of Andre Carter, 20 tackles for loss, 10 sacks as a junior. He's a marked man this year. They move him around, and he's still productive, Chris. That's what's impressive. They scheme to take him out of a game, and they can't. That's the reason, Joe, that Andre Carter solidified. I want to ask you, Mort, this question. Teams, I think, allow too much information to go out too early. Everybody knew Chicago was eyeing Tomlinson and Carter.
He didn't make the Pro Bowl until 2011. That's some crazy shit.
Who, Andre Carter?
Yeah.
The Bears like 3 or 4 guys. Listen, and David Terrell's there.
Late bloomer.
This morning, Deuce McAllister was getting very strong with the Chicago Bears.
But who was their main option, though, Mort?
Well, Andre Carter quit it, but I think
I don't know who Chicago took here, but I guarantee you it was a bad pick.
That's a safe bet.
People don't give
a
it
safe
again
bet.
twice in the same hour.
The Bears used to be the
It
Raiders.
isn't too much information.
Yep.
We can sit down
And
and
the
you can
Seahawks.
look at the need of a football team and say,
Joe, that's not true.
this football
That's
team
not
needs
true.
a couple
No.
people. Yes, it is true.
No.
We can sit down. How do you pick them? You know the need.
Yeah, Joe, but Andre Carter, you talk about names associated with a team. It happens too often.
But there's so few in this area.
You know what? That
Not
last
that
year,
good.
last
You
year,
have other needs.
Bro, Mel Kiper used to want to smoke about every prospect.
Every prospect, bro.
He ate them all.
He was feisty.
I haven't seen him say a nice thing about anyone yet.
He was young and feisty.
pretty big time. And with Carter, along with Bryant Young, who's the old guy from Notre Dame on the line, they're hoping that they get a defense. They got a pretty good offense. Will be back 66 NFL draft. San Diego.
Did he prove to you?
Well, if added Mike, if they have a run like the Bills did, and LaDainian Tomlinson is at the hub of it.
They did way too much interviewing. Oh no.
Will it be a port well with the same?
Bear said, "Fine, you don't want to see my pick then."
Great, Michael Vick.
Oh. I lost it. I hit this little button on the mouse and it took me out of it.
Bro, I blame the Bears for this.
Was offense. It was horrible, and they just wanted one win, and they finally got it against the Chiefs. Ironically, off the foot of John Conti, Sheila McCray, Good night, everybody. But Carney won't even be their kicker next year. They've gone with Richie. The San Diego Chargers.
See what happens, Bears, when you try to be in the draft.
John Butler is the new general manager. Mike Riley is still the head coach, but Norv Turner, offensive guru, worked with Butch Davis under Jimmy, of course. He is the new offensive coordinator. So a new feel.
Here we go.
2001 draft.
This is where we left off.
Bears select David Terrell, wide receiver.
Oh, this is a bad pick. I told you.
The Bears.
I think
The Bears.
we haven't talked about one of the most storied franchises in football, the Bears, because all this was happening. The Bill was so gracious with us.
I like what the Bears are doing now, but listen, boy. Whew.
I think that's a guy that Seattle.
You got to be a special person to be a Bears fan.
Come on, they enjoyed smoking Jay Cutler that one year.
Season, and I think it begins with the lack of development / cohesiveness in huddle. Call it what you want, Joe, with Cade McNown.
I think Cade McNown still is another young quarterback that has to try and prove himself. I'm not 100% sold. I liked him. I thought he was quarterback.
He has not said a single nice thing about a
prospect. I don't think he's performed to the level he can. This is a good choice for them because Marcus Robinson, who's a big receiver and a good receiver, has a back problem. So Marty Booker, he hasn't really stepped up and done the job they want. They lose Eddie Kinnison.
How many years did David Terrell play in the
There's a void
league?
created there, and
look
an
at-
uncertainty that's wrapped around it.
And this is
David Terrell
that I think that
played until 2007.
Goes, I think you have to remember, he does not have the job.
How many years with the Bears?
Last year, it was
3.
his job, but based on how he has regressed.
He finished his career with 9 touchdowns
Opportunity to win that
and
job.
1,600 yards.
Bust. Yeesh.
Whoever it is, a quarterback will relish.
Yo, first round pick. This dude was a top 10 pick.
The Bears.
The Bears. Top 10 pick. But look, he was a beast in college though.
900-yard receiving games and runs good routes.
900-yard receiving games and was never seen again.
Beat Nate Clemens. Nate Clemens is a mid-first round draft choice. David Terrell against Jamar Fletcher. See him there with the size, 6'3", 213. I mean, he is a physical receiver. He'll block downfield. He had, I think, when you look at the productivity.
Miles Boykin-esque.
As a junior this past
Miles
year.
Boykin-esque.
Miles Boykin-esque.
Look at that blocking.
Look at that blocking.
The question I had is the stretch fracture. He said it was there since
When they show him blocking on your highlight tape, man.
Is there any concern about the injury?
What are you, a top 10 pick?
I think
He was a top 10 pick. Yeah, man. You ready? You ready for Greg Roman?
Greg Roman, Stevie.
If it's a major.
Before you do that, all you need to do is take a look at the depth chart, which we had up there. Marcus Robinson, Des White, hasn't really stepped up the way he wants to. Bobby Ingram. Bobby was hurt a lot last year. Marty Booker, not sure he can do it. Dwayne Bates. I mean,
Oh my God, I thought that was receiving yards, and because it's the Bears, I would have
But
believed
again, is he going to be healthy enough? Also, they still will run a degree of Gary Croydon's offense in the past.
Let me ask you this.
John Swoop, they'll try
Both
to run
you guys,
the ball.
Cade McNown, he has not yet established himself, right? What's the problem? Is it the arm strength question at Chicago, or is it the fact he has not established himself as a leader within that football team?
I think it's twofold. First of all, I don't think he had a running game to support him. I think every young quarterback benefits from a running game. We're seeing Tim Couch struggle the same way. And Peyton Manning on the other side has Edwin James, so he's able to get it.
James Allen had some
I think that's
game,
Joe. Secondly, I think it was their offensive philosophy, just to throw the ball around as much as they did. I don't think that helped.
You know what the league needs, and this is whether you root for this team or not. The league needs the Chicago Bears to be a factor again. I mean, these are the Chicago Bears. They're in a division where every team was over 500 last year, except for them. They've been, for them, floundering, although they knocked Detroit out at the end of the year to have their one high moment. But now they get a guy that maybe puts a little excitement. They hope. David Terrell, the first receiver we've seen gone, he's with our Chris Fowler. Chris?
Well, Chris, a few minutes ago, David Terrell was taking a nap. He woke up, he started crying, and was a little cranky. Talking about David Terrell Jr., your 2-year-old son, who was awakened about 25 minutes ago, anticipating this pick. You had to sweat for a
That
little
man
bit.
was napping during
I
the
know you're
draft.
elated to be a Bear.
Oh yeah. I'm very excited. I'm just going to this situation, going to Chicago. Got a
That
lot
man
of
said I was
friends in Chicago,
sleeping
a lot
waiting
of
for a
family
call.
homes. Jamal Crawford is there. A lot of my friends are there. So I'm gonna go into it, and the Bears want me.
Fact.
With the 9th pick in the 2001 NFL Draft, the Seattle Seahawks select Corin Robinson, wide receiver from North Carolina State.
That was a bust.
Did you know that Corin Robinson was an All-Pro?
Really? Where? What year?
With the Vikings.
Oh, yeah.
Right when he left the Seahawks.
I remember that.
Wolf, his old mentor in Green Bay, Mike Holmgren, knew would take Robinson with the very next pick. 110 receptions.
Watch this college tape, though. He was crazy in college.
State, Mel, and let's remember, he's a return man as well.
He's a great return man. You look at how smooth he is and how explosive he is. 6'1.5", 210 pounds. Needs to become more of a natural receiver. Why? He was a tailback in high school. Once gained 389
was
yards
cutting up.
in one game. He moved to wide receiver.
You see the
That's where
moves?
they needed him the most. Remember, Torrey Holt was there. That's his mentor. A kid who really does the job this year. I talk about stepping up 2 touchdown receptions as a sophomore this past year, 3rd year in the program. 13 receptions. That was the difference. I think if you look at Corin Robinson, the work
cutting on a dime.
combine workout didn't run.
He
Then
ain't
he
even
tries to
trying.
do his individual more. He runs at 4.6 on a track. Wasn't able to finish and give the kind of 40 he's capable because of a hamstring injury. I can never remember a 3rd-year sophomore entering the draft without an established, accurate 40 time.
And yet, there were the
Man, imagine saying that now.
was a problem with his left eye. He
It's
had
like every first-round pick now.
And he reacts the colors different. Red and green are a little bit fuzzy for him. And
Oh, 100. I'm with this guy now. I didn't know he was colorblind.
But
That's
he
my
had an
people.
appointment with Seattle in terms of go over this medical condition with his eye, and he's seen 2 eye specialists since the combine. It's a condition he's had all his life, and obviously this guy, I've heard the name Randy Moss kind of mentioned in the same breath. This could be a potential Randy Moss type of player. And I will say this, Seattle, I say when you have Darrell Jackson and Corin Robinson, you better bring in Jerry Rice in June to mentor these 2 young receivers.
He was one of the 7 players, the 12 players we said had the same grade, the highest grade in this draft, and they acquire him at the 9th spot. This is one of the established stars of this draft, still on the board at 9.
10 seconds. Torrey Holt went 1 from NC State a couple years ago to St. Louis. How does he compare?
He's not as mature as a receiver. Remember, he's a tailback. Torrey Holt went back for a senior year, worked that summer on his route running. Corin Robinson needs still to be developed as a wide receiver.
Well, Seattle has addressed the defense during the free agency. They get a quarterback in a trade with the Packers, and now they have a receiver, a big receiver in Corin Robinson. The Green Bay Packers, they're on the clock, and Ron Wolf's final draft with the Pack. We'll be back.
Packer said, "This is my closing gift to you."
All away big savings on Venture Tech trailers from Menards. They're fully assembled.
And now the Green Bay Packers are on the clock. They wanted receiver, they wanted defensive tackle, but you know what? The big guys for that who are worth those selections at 10 may be gone. Let's go up to Mike Tirico and the guys to bat it around. Michael, just a couple of guesses here with Seattle.
Just a few, I'm sure, Chris. While we have a second, let's go back to the top of the draft. Michael Vick selected by Atlanta. Scott Walker is at the Falcons headquarters. We'll bring Scott in now. Any conversation of how they're going to use Michael Vick in 2001, Scott?
Yes, they're starting to talk about that here, Mike, as Vic. It was interesting. 2 weeks ago, he had a meeting here in Atlanta with the Atlanta coaching staff well before the Falcons envisioned that he could become an Atlanta Falcon. In that meeting, Vic was asked by the coaches to imagine some of the things that he might be able to do on the field. And it's that kind of imagination the Falcon coaching staff will take into this season. They do intend on getting him on the field somehow, trying to get him on the perimeter with the football, giving him the ability to run or pass to try to make plays. That will not include the traditional slash role you saw with Cordell Stewart. He will not play a receiver role at this point. As for being the starting quarterback, they said it's up to Michael Vick as to when he will mature into that role.
Okay, Scott, Michael Vick with the football in his hands is a special player no matter when it happens. We'll talk more about him as the weekend goes on. I want to go down to the number 3 pick with Cleveland taking Gerard Warren from Florida. Our Sal Palantonio's in Tampa covering the Bucs. But Sal, you had a chance to speak to the new Cleveland Brown on the telephone.
Yeah, Gerard Warren is up the road in Gainesville, where he went to school at the University of Florida. He is celebrating being the 3rd pick with his family. I had a chance to talk to him on the phone, Mike, and he said he had a long conversation with new Browns head coach Butch Davis, who talked to him about the up-tempo, aggressive style of defense that Davis.
With the 10th choice in the 2001 draft, the Green Bay Packers select Jamal Reynolds, defensive end from Florida State.
Say it with me, bust.
Well,
Bust.
we ain't talking about the Hall of Fame one.
Said in this going into his last half, I wish at some point I'd gotten Brett Favre a big-time receiver. Look, they all of a sudden cannot move on the defensive line. Those days that they got in the Super Bowl with a big line are gone, even though a slim Gilbert Brown has returned to the back.
He's got on the rush with that. The Packers are in a division that you got to get to the quarterback. The Dante Culpepper, we know the Bears throw the football, so I think that's a lot behind
We're talking about getting after the quarterback. You go back to 99. He sacked Joe Hamilton twice, had 3 tackles for loss against Miami. And guess what? He sacked Michael Vick 3 times in that championship game. Now, this past season, 10 sacks the first 5 games. Then he had that slight knee sprain. Only had 2 sacks the rest of the way. One thing Jamal Reynolds can do, when he's 100%, he is a pure outside pass rusher, runs in the 4.55 to 4.6 range. His weight's up to 268. And I'm impressed. When I see a guy sacking Joe Hamilton, as elusive as Joe is, and Michael Vick, who's the best athlete ever to play the position, guys, that's a kid who can get after the quarterback. Question is holding up against the run at the National Football League.
The one guy he says nice things to is the one who's the bust.
Not quite
Crazy work.
They definitely need help up there. When he sacks Joe Hamilton, Frank, and Reynolds, that's pretty good. Ron Wolf hanging him up where he says he will he's certainly leaving Green Bay in June.
Number 11, them Carolina Panthers.
Made the move here, which was the Hasselbeck trade, but a lot of the moves pay off the following way. Vonnie Holiday a few years ago, and maybe having some other big guys on the line like Reynolds will get Holiday back to with the form that we saw his rookie year.
You know what it reminds me of, guys? Tony Brackens coming out of Texas. You know, not the ideal size, but remember, Joe Reynolds has his weight up to about 268.
San Francisco here, the Panthers draft pick.
He's I don't give a damn.
With the 11th
Quit yapping.
2001 draft, the Carolina Panthers select Dan Morgan, linebacker from the University.
He's their GM now.
And you know what?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny, isn't it?
He's a solid player.
Yeah, he was solid. But he's their general manager now.
That's crazy.
That's funny.
I would think there's some good.
I wonder if this guy knew he was going to become the general manager of the team that's drafted him.
The Anthony Clements, and I think they were. Go ahead, Mel, take this. So tell them about this guy.
I'll tell you what, Chris, you look at Dan Morgan in the eyes of a middle linebacker, which you have to remember.
They got to announce him as general manager when they drafted.
12 pounds back as a freshman, then moved up to 225, then to about 238. Now he's 250, and Dan Morgan says he's faster than he's ever been. Here's that big interception at the goal line. You talk about the eyes and the vision. You see it here in number 40, or reading the quarterback. Good hands for the INT, and a kid who is a real warrior. And I think with the Carolina Panthers, Lester Towns came in as a late-round pick, did a heck of a job for it in the middle. And you can't really forget the fact that Morgan was an outstanding outside linebacker before he moved to middle at a necessity when Nate Webster moved on to the NFL.
And he runs in a style like Zach Thomas in Miami. Everybody talks about, he's a little stiff in the hips. I'm not sure about that. Zach.
And they wasted no time.
With the 12th pick in the 2001 draft, the St. Louis Rams select Damian Lewis, defensive tackle from the University of Miami.
This is always interesting in a draft.
Damian
when
Lewis.
A major league contender.
I think he was okay.
Super Bowl champion.
I'm looking at it now because I actually don't recall the name.
Or trades or both. Like the
he played 4 years for the Rams, but lasted in the league until 2010. But 2010, he was a practice squatter.
Defense.
Total philosophical change. They're changing their entire defensive philosophy.
He finished with 23 and a half sacks.
He wasn't happy with the effort. He told me
4 forced
two
fumbles.
things I'm going to change defensively. We're going to change the attitude of this football team, and we're going to add speed. You know how much he loves speed, Mort. He loves on the offensive side of the ball. That's why they went for Chung candidate last year. Now you can see it again on the defensive side.
And he fits this Lovie Smith.
Chris Chambers, man. Chris Chambers was an underrated player, too.
Has that. It's a great athlete. He's like dropped back into coverage at zone blitz package. He averaged 14 points, 11 rebounds as a basketball player in high school. And you go back to his redshirt freshman season, led all Miami defensive linemen with 72 tackles. Very instinctive, very quick. It's not a 3 technique. It's one of those penetrating defensive tackles. And you look at this past season, got broken foot early on in that loss to Washington. Had it not been for that injury, which hampered
Bruh, all these pictures always look like they were held hostage.
Talked about how important is his value. Forget about the senior year. Go back to those other seasons, and Damian Lewis was one of the best in the business.
Just a quick point there. Attitude. We talk about the change in attitude. Here's a kid that plays with an injury. Right. I mean, those are the kind of people that you want on your football team. Guys that don't look for an excuse to leave, but guys that want to stay and play.
I don't think you can ever go wrong with Miami defensive linemen. Never can go wrong with the University of Miami defensive line.
Let me tell you, I mean, you don't need to be Dick Vermeil or anybody to figure out that, my God, we scored 540 points last year. Did the St. Louis Rams, as Mike Mart certainly was quick to see. But when you give up 471, no wonder you lose in the opening round of the playoffs. Here is step one, Andrea Kramer, of what we expect to be, at least up front, a defensive day. It already has been in St. Louis.
Absolutely, Chris. Now, in the war room, there was basically no debate.
For us, select Marcus Stroud, defensive tackle from Georgia.
Well, that was, I'll be honest with you, that was the word this morning that Tom Coughlin so impressed by what the Baltimore Ravens have done with the big defensive tackles, the Saraguses, the Sam Adams, that he really felt that was the way to go. And I mean, when I heard Stroud this morning, I said, okay, if some other guys aren't there, but Kenyatta Walker, when you've lost Leon Searcy and you've got a great offensive lineman like Walker, I'm surprised.
How about Steve Hutchinson? You know, guard tackle out of Michigan. You got a Hutchinson and Walker sitting there. My opportunity there is to say, hey, we stole one of the best players in this draft. Marcus Stroud is a guy I don't think played to the level every week of his talent. Well, to me, he is not a Sam Adams type. He is a guy that has to be
every
developed.
single year. Mel Kiper falls in love with some defensive tackle.
Where you could have got a much better player.
That never changes.
Hutchinson than Marcus Stroud.
6'6", 320 from Georgia. One of those tackles from Georgia. The two of them, obviously very strong. But you'd think this is high. I mean,
I don't say high, Chris, because he would have figured to go right in this general area. But a stretch when you say Hutchinson and Walker, who I thought were two of the elite players, more, I had them graded out and said nobody in this draft had a higher grade than Walker and Hutchinson. They were the same as those 7 to 12 we mentioned. Marcus Stroud was not in that group.
No, but despite all the losses Jacksonville suffered in free agency, I think that Tom Coughlin still says, I still got the Brunells, Freddie Taylors, the receivers. Our offensive line improved last year. We were 7th in offense.
You lost Fordham and you lost Searcy, Morton. You got a quarterback in Brunell. Has to be able to stay healthy. That's a question with that knee.
I'm surprised they passed on one of those two offensive
I'm shocked. I mean, that is a shocking first-round pick as far as I'm concerned.
Well, they were snake bit a couple of years ago when all those defensive players got hurt, and they kind of fell from where they were, and they... Well, oh, God, yes. Buffalo has some intriguing choices. They didn't...
It's crazy how long the first
which
round
the Bills
used to be.
have just done.
Yeah, a lot of talk.
Moves up 7 spots to number 14 to the Bills.
Well, because teams used to have like 10 minutes too, though.
Yeah, they had a long time.
21, they pick up a second-round pick as well. And look, a long time ago, Tampa Bay had a left tackle who just retired named Paul Gruber, who slid.
39 straight games at left tackle for Michigan, and you look at the corner still on the board. They figure to go in the mid to latter portion of round 1.
Rich McKay, the general manager of the Bucs, told me last night that they would not move up unless somebody special was there, and it's got to be Walker.
He is special, I'll tell you that.
Robert Hutchinson back. I mean, they weren't sure any of those names would be there. They're all there.
They have a Super Bowl team missing a part.
Richie McKay, an underrated man at working the draft. I'll talk about that in a minute. He's not mentioned with draft day deals very much. He should be. Here may be another one.
With the 14th pick in the 2001 draft, acquired by trade from Buffalo, Tampa Bay is selecting Kenyatta Walker, tackle from the University of Florida.
Well, they got all those Pro Bowl guys, you know, Christie at center and the moves that they made, but they need a homegrown, and when a homegrown tackle who's
It's always interesting to me when cold cities like Buffalo draft players from Florida.
But tackle is what
Yeah.
Gruber-esque.
I mean, we do that though.
Yeah, I don't think we're as cold as Buffalo though.
He is an elite Miller Mort at left tackle for a team that thinks they can move on to the Super Bowl.
And he's a guy, remember, he's going to have to protect Brad Johnson, who needs protection for them to get done what they want.
You look at him at right tackle here, and you see the balance. I mean, he was beaten, it looked like initially, but he kept his feet, kept his balance, and he did the job. Here again, protecting the quarterback.
He didn't end up too well
in
on the
that
Bucs.
area, in that Florida-style offense. Now, when you look at moving the left left tackle. Sure, he didn't play that position in Florida. He practiced there in the fall when Mike Pearson was hurt. He played there his entire career at the prep level in Mississippi, where he earned All-American honors. And you look at 6'4.5", that 315, 31.5 vertical, and here he is right there against Warren. You see the ability in pass protection. That's the key, Warren. Like you said, protecting the blind side of Brad Johnson.
Yeah, but you talk about protecting and protecting and protecting. You guys, we're talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, please. I think one of the problems that they have run into over the last couple of years is trying to change and figure out who they are on offense. They wanted Sean King a couple of years ago, really felt comfortable. That didn't work out. They go get a Brad Johnson. Now, Brad Johnson is in a situation where I don't know whether it's him coming in that's going to help them or just having Clyde Christensen decide on what they want to do on offense. To me, this is a football team that has to go back and establish the run, build in a play-action game, let Keyshawn get his catches as they go, and then develop that style of offense. Once you do that, let the defense go out and do their things, then you're going to be the Tampa Bay Bucs that will compete for a title.
I just find it intriguing, with all due respect to the New York Football Giants, who had a wonderful season and getting to the Super Bowl, and all due respect.
With the 15th selection of the 2001 draft, the Washington Redskins select wide receiver Rod Garner.
Oh, that was a bust.
You know what's crazy too is they end up with Santana Moss.
You said what?
In the long term, they end up with Santana Moss. Despite
Yeah,
Rod Gardner
yeah,
ahead of him.
yeah.
Was dying to have Santana Moss. The fact that
They end up with Santana anyway after a few years.
Who is running
Yeah.
the show in Washington? And it isn't George Bush.
No, well, he's running the big picture. Let's take the big picture. He's got that one. But
Well,
the little one in
here's
Washington
the
goes
little picture. Here's Gardner, who you heard Vinny say it in Mel.
Let's take a look at Rod Gardner's stats.
2,400 yards in receiving at a school that has receivers in Clemson.
He finished with 3,000.
Best in the school's history.
Chris, he is
23
the best,
TDs,
the highest
3,000
rated
yards.
receiver coming into this program since Jerry Butler. And you talk about Jerry Butler, 5th overall pick of the Buffalo Bills way back in 1979. You see him lay out the pull in that reception. Not a lot of separation with Rod Gardner. The guy is very physical as a receiver, 6'2.25", 217 pounds. Look at the body control, the hand-eye coordination. He attacks the ball, and certainly he'll get off the jam. There's pressure quarterbacks in the NFC East. And I think when you look at Rod Gardner, a guy that will come right in and have a major impact. I was obviously a big fan of Rod Gardner. I gave him the equal in terms of grade to any other player in the draft. So I am a huge Rod Gardner fan.
Man, back then he's just
Bigger question.
who is Mel Kiper
No
anyway?
question about that. Bigger question. How long, if things don't go well out of the gates, how long does the owner do what he says with Marty and leave everything alone?
I think he does. I don't think he gets himself involved as actively as he has in the past. I believe this is Marty's show to run. Now, that's a credit to Daniel Snyder. Like any young guy who takes over anything or comes into our league, there's a learning process.
Yes.
Daniel Snyder is learning how to be an owner. I believe the hiring of Marty is a step in that process, and a good step. I think Daniel said, look, I've hired a good person. I'm going to let him do the job. I'm going to be the fan. I'm going to get excited. If we lose, I'm going to be mad. But it's Marty's football team to run.
And I think Marty made it clear with Snyder.
Man, they talking up Dan Snyder. That's crazy.
That's fine. Second
This is before they realized
$10 million.
Yeah.
there was no hope for him.
And I think that Daniel Snyder, we said this on primetime emphatically during the season. He didn't become a successful businessman by not learning. And if he's done, as you said, he has a passion and he's learned, we think. And if he has, then that can only benefit.
Man, they got 12 minutes on the clock. That's
Vinny
crazy.
Serrato, you were inside the closed doors yet. Do you think that this will
I'm
be
so glad the draft's fast.
quiet period, even if things don't go well for
Look at this
Marty?
man's eyes,
I
bro.
think so. I think he's got full control to Marty, and I think he's saying,
Staring
Marty,
through my
you've
soul.
got experience, you've done it before. Take the reins and run with it, and I'm going to stay in the background and let you do your thing.
Bro.
That boy, like, he took a line of coke.
Hoping that was going to be the
That's Vinny Serrato. He be on the radio in Baltimore.
Let's go down to Sal Palantonio in Tampa for
That boy
for
look
some
like
thoughts
he
on why
coked
this
up.
game's with Gardner versus.
Yikes. He made a draft pick.
Well, Chris, look at this from another perspective. If you remember at the NFL owners' meetings, Marty Schottenheimer was asked who is the best team? Which is the best team in the NFC East? And he replied, the Philadelphia Eagles. They have Donovan McNabb. All they need is a wide receiver, a big play wide receiver. And the guy that the Eagles coveted was Rod Gardner. Tom Modrak, the director of football operations in Philadelphia, loved Gardner. And that was the guy they were targeting. If they were going to go up to get any wide receiver, it would have been Gardner. So this is a way for Schottenheimer to get his guy and take away a division rival's potential big playmaker, Chris.
That's very interesting that you say that, Sal. And then I think we have.
I think he would have had a better career had he went to Philly.
A gentleman that works with us, played a little quarterback in Philly, that understands that exactly Gardner would have been a guy that Philly would have gone up to get. And Ron Jaworski, you like this pick for Schottenheimer, don't you?
Absolutely. And, you know, one thing, if you watch those tapes on Rod Gardner, you see a guy that can block. And if you know you're going to play for Marty Schottenheimer's offense, they're going to run the
Marty
football,
Schottenheimer and Dan Snyder.
But I was also very fortunate in my career to play with a wide
What
receiver.
a duo.
And height does make a difference. He can go up and catch the football. And what I love about Rod Gardner, he can get off the bump and run and the jam at the line of scrimmage, and he can separate. When you look at this tape here, you'll see a guy that will go up and take the football away. You got to love this kind of stuff. The quarterback will see the bump and run coverage. Hey, you get this coverage with a big, quick, strong wide receiver, audible to the fade. Good stick to the inside. Just freeze that corner for one split second.
Man, they have that 2040p.
Beat him, get him off you,
2040p.
up the field, not to the sideline. A lot of NFL receivers run to the sideline, give the quarterback nowhere to throw the football. You'll see the throw here out in the box. Gives the quarterback
can't even see the ball.
Covered so damn good you can't even see it in the air.
At the line of scrimmage, you saw the strength when he came off the line and clubbed the guy to get him away, and then you saw the smart heady play of giving room for the quarterback to drop the ball in the box. Boomer, I like this pick by Marty.
So now you talk about value with the 16-hole for Pittsburgh. Now there are some, I don't want to say slips, but maybe some surprises according to your board.
There are, Chris. Like Steve Hutchinson is the safest pick in round one. He can play guard or tackle. Todd Heath can bring Tony Gonzalez type natural pass receiving skills in the tight end position. Then you'll see a run on corners maybe starting here. But I think this will prove the point. Even though Hutchinson there, in the NFL right now, because of the salary cap, you have to fill needs. Best available player doesn't mean anything anymore. It's filling a need with that first round pick.
But I promise you, if you have a need today, or you don't have a need, say at guard, it'll be a need next year because you're going to lose somebody on a contract. So you better, I think you should look at the best player available, especially at a guard like Hutchinson with all the defensive tackles.
I think need is important because right now you look at these teams, you're one or two players away from winning one or two more football games. That changes your posturing once you get into the playoffs. To me, teams like St. Louis really control this draft and in an unbelievable way.
How many rookies really make big-time contributions that year?
I think if you can get 20 plays out of a rookie, if you can get 15 to 20 key plays out of a rookie on the defensive line as a wide receiver, they can elevate the production of that particular unit.
Go ahead, Mel. And do you think they shift players around a little bit to suit those need areas? And they say, well, we got a seventh best player on that board. They move those players around to get those need areas in the right spot.
Sometimes 5.5 minutes. 5 minutes left with Pittsburgh on the clock. Now, Pittsburgh is seeing a lot. This is an interesting slot. And in talking with Coach Cowher, he said, and this looks like a trade right here. That's the trade phone. There are a lot of players that you just showed, Mel. The teams, oh my God.
That's the trade phone.
And him, Pittsburgh can move down like Buffalo did or like Seattle did and still get a player that they like and it's get extra picks.
And I think it's got to be a defensive back. All four of their corners right now will be free agents. 2 unrestricted, 2 restricted free agents. So the deal, there's got to be, if it's a deal, it's going to have to involve, I think, an opportunity to get a DB later.
What's the Jets?
Well, and I think I know what this is. Are the Jets on the clock?
Yes, they are.
They want that too.
Well, did they announce the trade yet?
Yeah. What about
the Jets have got to look. I got to think they're looking at Santana Moss.
Yes, this is the area where Santana Moss is going to go. And if you want Santana Moss, and you really want it, you better go get him.
If they announce this trade, guys,
I believe they
hear all sorts of cheering. No one's helping me here, but I guess you guys are.
Yes,
sure. So if the Jets are now on the clock, which would mean only a move down of 3, Pittsburgh gets their DB. And it's going to be Santana Moss, who, don't forget, the Jets not only need a more wideout, they need a return man. They just got one.
We have a trade the Jets have traded with Pittsburgh. With this selection, the
You know
Jets
what?
pick wide receiver from Miami, Santana Moss.
Santana Moss to the Jets.
Listen, so Corbett and Santana Moss are not going up against Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell. I mean, I understand that. But in talking with Herman
Santana to the Jets.
And we haven't even had a chance to talk about
Santana.
the team. Santana Moss is a special player.
Oh, yeah.
Don't you guys all agree?
Oh, sure.
Playmaker, Joe.
He is a playmaker. And really, again,
Santana Moss.
And that man Santana Moss lived in the
the
league.
big picture of the Jets.
Yeah, Santana was
This is
nice.
a football team that will change its philosophy on offense completely. Paul Hackett comes in as the offensive coordinator. He is a purist in the West Coast offense style. I think Wayne Corbett can be fit into that slot receiver again.
The purists in the West Coast style like the bigger receivers. Now they got
Only one. You only need one big one. They got a Matthew Hatchett, who's a little bit bigger. I think there are some bigger ones down the road in this draft. I really believe that this isn't an instant gratification pick. You're going to get some production out of it, but he'll fit into that offense. They have got some speed and excitement on offense.
He is electricity, and the return ability part, I think, is obviously a major factor, like Chris mentioned.
I wanted Santana Moss.
But
I was like, well, give me Santana Moss if I can't get Randy Moss.
State. Yeah, the big catches on that
And they
final
didn't give me
drive.
neither.
One on third and fourth. That guy's proven as a punt returner. 241 all-purpose yards against them.
He plays so much bigger than his physical size. That's why I liked him in Washington.
He's a football player. The Jets, all right, let's recap this. The Jets gave up a 4 and a 6 to Pittsburgh to swap 3 spots and to go up and get the player that they were really looking at, Santana Moss, who is he's a special kid.
I'd take that as a trade up, a 4th and a 6th. Move up 3 spots.
In the crosshair.
I'm Santana Moss, wide receiver / punt returner, University of Miami Hurricanes.
It's time to get.
It's hard growing up not having someone to really show you the rope to tell you right from
This
wrong.
Hurricanes team is
Your parents aren't
crazy.
gonna be with you, but so much, time. I'm much stronger because I didn't have a brother that always tell me anything. So what I do for my brothers, I let them know what I went through and how they can take their past. Just stay focused and dream on. Have fun. My son is a big inspiration to me, and not a day go by that I don't think of. And when I first heard I was getting ready to have a son, it was like, some guys might be, I'm about to leave school, I don't need this right now. But I was like, it was needed. I always feel that everything that's happened in life is always meant to be if it happens to you. I remember my first year playing Pop Warner. My first game, the first play of the game, I caught a deep bomb and like the safeties was back there, and I just shook them loose and I was gone. So my first game ever playing Little League ball, my first catch of the game, I scored a touchdown on it. I knew that coming in on that track scholarship had a lot of things to prove to guys. Let guys know that I wasn't just a track guy. I was a football guy first, and that just ran track on the side. I remember growing up telling my mom,
Look at young Tony Dungy.
He's going to have a career in the NFL and play for a long time. So we're excited to get him.
Real quickly, if you come in as a starter right away.
Well, we never do that, but we think he certainly has that type of ability, and we're going to give him every shot to do that, but he'll earn it in training camp.
All right, thanks, Tony. Boomer, back to you in New York.
All right, Tony, thank you, Sal. And certainly Herman Edwards, an interesting head coach in the Meadowlands. He was the one that scooped up the infamous Pisarcik fumble and scored a touchdown.
You remember who this pick is, Matt?
Ron Jaworski
17?
years ago.
Yeah.
Now Herman Edwards returns as a hero. Admittedly, coaching another team.
Seattle. Oh, this is Hutchinson.
Green and white.
Yes, sir.
Chris Fowler,
Yes,
Kirk
sir.
Herbstreit,
That's Hutchinson.
Santana Moss. You guys must have
Hutchinson found out.
It was fun to watch
Really
him play,
well.
Chris. He was big-time players step up in big-time
He's
games.
a Hall of Famer, right?
Yeah.
There's a
This is
real
back when the
joke
Seahawks used to know how to draft.
that the Seahawks thought, any team thought, that a player like Hutchinson, who just is pure nasty, I mean, this is nasty football, they just didn't think that he would be available. So as you point out, they lose Pete Kendall. Why not?
Yeah, you lose a Pete Kendall. It's an obvious situation that you feel like you have to fill. He's a tough guy, got a work ethic, same kind of attitude as Kendall. Now You've added your quarterback.
Damn, that's a picture.
Defensive back. You've got all these different pieces coming together. Didn't allow a sack the past 2 seasons.
Joe, watch him here at left guard, Joe. I mean, this is a guy who can do it all from the left guard position. Assist the running game. Here, Anthony Thomas about running downhill, not even touched until he's 7 yards deep in the backfield. There again, not touched, getting through the first line of defense. Here he is, pass protection for Drew Henson, who had that big year with the
He's so fast.
Watch him now. You talking about a
Yeah, he was fast for a guard.
6'5", 315 pounder. He's 30 yards down the field, assisting on a swing pass to Anthony Thomas. This kid, in my opinion, was equal.
I remember you just watch him pull and he'd be like ahead of everyone. You'd be like, that is crazy.
I'm telling you, you win with guys like Steve Hutchinson. When you put together championship teams, there's a Steve Hutchinson on your team. I love this move by Mike Holmgren.
You talked about the San Diego Chargers really jumping up and winning some football games. I think that the league is going to have to look out for this football team.
God, yes.
I think Seattle they'll be in the playoffs guaranteed. And the type of offense that they use is you need somebody who can quick and pull. You don't need a big road grader. Just a big guy who can run around.
This division, you talk about a couple teams at the bottom. I'm waiting to see what Kansas City does. Although my goodness, they've moved. But Seattle, San Diego, and from the bottom coming back up to Oakland and Denver, were quality teams. Mike Holmgren's been coach of the year.
That's crazy. Seattle
while he's still coaching.
and Kansas City was in the same division at one
Let's go
point.
up to Mike Tirico because Mike, this is a.
They love that West Coast Kansas.
No, he's a little shorter than some people would like, but I think he's an explosive guy. He runs very, very fast, and he's been a good player at the level that he's played at.
Chris Fowler made the point. You guys weren't.
Bro, it's so crazy how Chris Ballard's still in like all of this.
Publicly through the press in New York about how much you guys loved Santana Moss. Were you worried that somebody might have known that and was going to hop in there before you?
Well, no, I think Santana was one of the receivers we liked. There was a couple other guys there that we also coveted, but we felt that we had the opportunity to get Santana, and he would come in here and help us offensively and really put a little fear on the defenses that had to match up against this player.
Herman, congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Herman Edwards there. The Jets in Pittsburgh almost made a trade for Chad Pennington last year's draft that didn't go down.
Well, with the same grade. Michael Vick's at the top because he's a quarterback.
And they wasted no time.
With the 12th pick.
My little hand keep hitting the button. I don't know why I keep hitting the button.
Understandable. You were still mad about the Santana Moss pick all these years later.
Yeah.
I get you.
It just bothers me.
The drafts that got away.
They do trade this year, and Chris.
A system type of a quarterback.
Who also likes more.
It comes down to this too, all the time.
Together 4 years, started 4 years next to each other, and
state-of-the-art games in the million. And this
That was their pick, Jeff Backus.
And this one went down to the
Allen Iverson.
seconds. Allen Iverson.
Man, we skip Jeff Backus for Allen Iverson. I'm for it.
And the Sixers fall to the Pacers 79-78. More scores of all kinds coming up at the top of the hour.
We get an
right
Allen
now.
Iverson,
Send you back to New York City and Chris Berman. Chris.
All right, Susie Q, thank you very much. Thanks for the work up there.
Life was simpler back then.
With the Jets, now his career, and Mel,
Casey Hampton.
He's pretty.
I remember him with the Steelers. He was a problem.
Really the way you would hope in terms of.
Unfortunately, you remember him for the Steelers.
Injury back in '97, but he came back.
Big
from that
Casey Hampton.
injury to put up the big numbers along the defensive front. Started 37 straight games, went on the start just about every game from that point on. And look at this past year, Sean Rodgers is out with the injury, limited in terms of his effectiveness. Yet Rodgers goes out and dominates his Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. I think that's pretty impressive. You lose your guy next to you that you rely on, Sean Rodgers. He's not as effective for it. Yet Casey Hampton still proved to be as productive as he had ever been.
They still need somebody to play behind him. They lost Levon Kirkland. Big loss.
Well, they understand at least the Pittsburgh Steelers finished the season on an up note. Cordell played better. They finished at 9-7. It's the first up note they've had on a couple of seasons. And you got to get up if you're going to look at the two AFC champions in your division the last 2 years. Baltimore, Super Bowl champ, and Tennessee the year before that. And Jacksonville is a strong team before that. Mark Malone certainly dialed into the Pittsburgh situation, although we have planted him out in the show-me state Mark, never far away from Pittsburgh.
Damn, imagine looking back on that and hearing the Steelers behind the Titans and the Jaguars.
Well, we segue
Adam Archuleta, bro, this dude was a hard hitter. Look at these highlights that they show him.
This is a
Dude was a hard hitter.
Pick here, and St. Louis had him pegged all along. I thought he would have been a perfect Oakland Raider. I mean, what cost the Raiders in that AFC Championship game was a missed tackle. I really thought that Adam
Oakland Raider, just because he's a missed draft pick's pretty funny.
Tim Herring from Baltimore. Now they bring in an Archuleta to be your strong safety, a guy who was a former walk-on, played that rover linebacker position, and a guy that you go back and say, well, it's a transition into the NFL. Ask Darren Woodson that same question. Ask Pat Tillman that question. They transitioned Joe very effectively into the NFL.
I think it's a nice fit for them. Again, defense, speed, special teams. These are all the things that you think about. There he is.
Man, it's back when we had the Pac-10.
Coming in and filling. Now he comes up and makes a tackle. That's the other thing. He brings an attitude. Watch him go out, sideline to sideline, running around all over the place. Has good eyes and good vision back to the quarterback, coming around the corner. We've seen him do a number of things just in this highlight package. He knows how to get to the quarterback. He can bring it. That's exactly what they think about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What do they like to do? They like to come after the quarterback. Possibly
John Lynch. That's a great way. John Lynch. I mean, we got a long way to go before you're John Lynch. But for what we just saw there, that is what they're looking for. So they've gone D-line. They've gone to safety. They get another pick in the first round. Might they go at linebacker? They got Aeneas Williams. They got Aeneas Williams.
Pencil him in.
St. Louis Rams. All right, everything in St. Louis flowing through the gateway to the west. And you know what? I think Andrea Kramer's with us, and your guest is probably pretty happy that maybe, just maybe, they don't have to put up 45 points a game anymore.
Absolutely, Chris. And we were in the war room when Pittsburgh made the pick of Casey Hampton. And as soon as that pick came in, they started high-fiving each other. Jay Zygmunt, the team president, throwing up his hand. They started calling him Adam Martz, as in, Coach Martz. So Martz Madness is going to take on a defensive player at this point. The other thing that was interesting is that when Pittsburgh went on the clock, the Rams got a call from Carmen Policy and the Browns to see whether or not they'd be interested in moving down into the second round. And they said, if a player we want is not there when we're ready to pick, we'll move down. Archuleta was the guy. Archuleta is the one that they picked immediately. Well, perhaps the greatest beneficiary of all this defensive talent, believe it or not, is the quarterback, the MVP from 2 years ago. Who would think you'd be happy about defensive talent? Kurt Warner, what is your assessment so far of the defensive players added to your team?
Well, I don't pay a whole lot of attention to the defense, but I know our coaches, felt that was our greatest need. And coming in, they were going to try to shore up some weaknesses we had over there. And from what I understand, the two guys we've got so far are going to be great attributes to the team and shore up our defense a little bit so we can get back to where we belong.
You are also friendly with Aeneas Williams. What is that addition going to mean to the Rams?
I think it's a tremendous addition, both on and off the football field. He's going to be a great leader for us. We've got a lot of young guys in our secondary. A guy that's proven that he can do it. He knows how to win. He knows how to win on and off the football field. And
you got a young Kurt Warner,
great leader, and really take control of that defense, I think, and bring us
looked like an actor.
Finally, Trent Green.
Well, it wasn't right. It was
Nate Clements to Buffalo.
Yeah, right. The president, Tom Donahoe, Buckeye bookends. You got Antoine Winfield.
Who's a great player.
Clements. Yes.
Well, the Bills are a discussion unto the. We'll talk about the player first because Ohio
Nate
State.
Clements lasted until 2012. Had a Pro Bowl.
On this too.
Yeah, he was decent.
A football program at 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Cornerback. Plummer to San Francisco last year. Of course, Sean Springs with Seattle. I'm forgetting one off
Winfield.
Antoine. Well, we just mentioned Antoine Winfield, and now they have Nate Clements. How does he rank coming out of school with these? Coming out of school,
Those players, Chris, I thought were a little bit more polished. You look at a guy like Nate Clements, you see great physical ability, 5'11", 209, and a guy that certainly has the recovery.
For us every Sunday on .com and with us, got a second round pick. It's still pretty much
that have come out of Michigan, and I think we got ourselves a good one right there.
Matt, what is going to be the hardest thing? Yes, you do have a good one. I think everybody agrees with that. For you now in this job, which maybe a couple of years ago you started to think about, maybe not with the Lions, but maybe somewhere else. Right. But a player, a broadcast.
It's going back and forth this week between attorneys, law enforcement officers, just to clarify Fred Smoot's situation. So Fred Smoot has dropped a little bit. He is that quick guy. But corner, yes, I'm still not ruling out a Todd Heath, though, because they need that type of player.
You know what? Well, the pick is in, and the Giant fans are up and waiting. And what a year they had last year. I mean, they were just a well-rounded. Well, we'll talk about it in a minute. Here are the New York Football Giants.
He said, "We'll talk about it in a minute."
Second selection. The New York Giants have chosen defensive back from Syracuse, Will Allen.
From Syracuse.
White Plains.
So he actually grew up in Syracuse in addition to going to college at Syracuse. I'm sure. So Will Allen, we've had 2 straight corners. No corner goes till 21. Now we have 2 in a row. By the way, it cost
15 picks in a career, not bad.
Yeah, he was decent.
And a 6. Will Allen, Mel?
Well, if you look at Will Allen, Boomer, and you go back to the junior campaign where he was just blanketing wide receivers all over the field. Now, he dropped back just a little this year. You see the aggressive qualities, jarring the ball loose. And keep in mind, he's 5'10 and a half, but he's 193 pounds. Very good strength, and he runs in that 4.35 range on a very consistent basis. You see his kickoff return skills here as well. Averaged 24.1 yards on 19 returns this past season. The question with Will Allen is, become a finisher. Ball skills. And I think where he's positioned to make a play, you have to come down with the INT. And in my mind, Morton Joe, you drop an INT or you don't come away with the pick when the opportunity presents itself to turnover against that player.
Again, he's a young football player. I think ball skills can be worked on. I think, believe me, he's going to catch more balls in this offseason.
Allowed 114 yards per game.
Just to work on his skills.
Is that what I just read?
About a defensive back. Will he stick his head in there and tackle? He will. I think that's what's very attractive to John Fox is the physical nature with which he plays the game.
Well, I am a little surprised though that Ernie, of course, the general manager, moved up. Ernie doesn't like to make a lot of trades. Not now, since he's been with the Giants.
Oh, you're confusing him with George Young.
No, but I think he feels like in this particular era, you sometimes regret.
To realize Jamal Lewis, a lot of injury problems in 2 years at Tennessee, and look what he did. You see Drew Brees, he could go into the early second round. Ironically, talk about all the great receivers. Reggie Wayne's the best route runner, and he has the strongest hands. He could be an early 2. Chris Jenkins is very interesting because he had an outstanding year, I thought, on a big upgrade over his junior year.
This one ends up good.
And he's a guy that I think is really comparable to those Baltimore Ravens defensive tackles. And interestingly enough, compared to every defensive tackle in this draft was Sam Adams.
Well, the thing you have to understand, if you want to get like the Baltimore Ravens defensive tackles, these guys need to put on 50, 60 pounds. I mean, you're not even going to scratch the surface of Syracuse at 320. I mean, forget about it. You got to go out to eat for a long time. 320 Canadian, right leg. About 66%.
320 Canadian. Yeah. Let's move up to Mike Tirico for some other news around the league. Michael.
Yes, north, but not as north as Canada. We want to bring in Sal Palantonio, who's south in Tampa, but discussing the Philadelphia Eagles as they await to pick 25th. Sal, what are you hearing from there?
Well, Mike, let's look ahead a little bit to that 25th pick in the Eagles. Don't forget they need a lot of wide receiver help.
It's so crazy hearing the sound quality.
Freddie Mitchell is still there. Players that they do like. Todd Heath, the tight end, is there, but you have a Pro Bowl tight end already on the football team.
It's like this was normal back then. Nobody even paid attention.
Has his top pick still available. Deuce McAllister. The Eagles, Deuce Staley, has been injured. He was injured in the second game last year, still has a problem with a stress fracture. McAllister's an interesting situation for them. Do they pick up McAllister as an insurance?
Deuce McAllister looks happy in this photo.
Or do they go with a wide receiver? So they have a dilemma down in Philadelphia. Michael?
That's Deuce with one more E and a bunch more injuries, and I'm sure the guys will talk about that as they talk McAllister more often later on. Right now, we'll go back to Chris and company in New York. Boomer.
All right, Michael, Sal, thank you very much.
But since he's been in New Orleans, he's never been enamored with Ricky Williams. And
there it is, Deuce McAllister news.
He either likes you or he's got issues with you. Now, hey, Ricky Williams, 2 straight off seasons, has barely been there with Jim Haslett. Has forfeited $250,000 each year in off-season workout bonus money, and I don't think he's Hazlett's type of guy. And this, at least, you'll find out Will he compete? Will he be motivated by getting a guy like
And one thing, too, with McAllister's pass receiving skills, Mort, you have a heck of an option. You can utilize him in a lot of different ways. He has kickoff return skills. He's an outstanding punt returner. You watch Deuce McAllister. I look at not his competitiveness. He's just not accurate. I look at Deuce McAllister, Joe, and he battled back from that injury the best he could this year. Go back to 1998. He rushed for over 1,000 yards, averaged 5.1 yards per carry. Caught 20 passes out of the backfield. Next year, averaged 5.4 yards per carry. Then the injuries this past season. But I go back to the Arkansas game. He was still not 100%, so had a big game there. Had a tremendous run off tackle where he won about 55 yards for a touchdown. Joe, I like Deuce McAllister, have all year, and I think the Saints are saying, hey, we have Ricky Williams, and we can utilize this guy as a receiver, as a punt returner, kickoff returner, and really use those multi-dimensional skills to our benefit.
I don't know if they're saying we have Ricky Williams. Jim Haslett's just sending a message out to Ricky Williams. We don't care. Go do whatever you want to do. I'm going on with my football team. That's Jim Haslett. He's great at handling guys who think they have problems. But he'll straighten them out. Wait 1 second. The other thing is that we talked about Jamal Lewis last year when the Baltimore Ravens were looking at Jamal Lewis and said, you know, he's got a nick here, he's got an injury here. Turned out to be a heck of a back. Deuce McAllister could be the same type of a back for them. Give them the pounder. Give them the versatility.
You agree with me, Joe?
I think I'm
with the Deuce bandwagon now?
Based on Jamal's situation, I think so. I think it's a good pick.
Let's look at the depth chart.
I love
Joe,
the pick.
keep going. Let's look at the depth
I love
chart
the fact that Jim Haslett said, hey, look, I'm not going to put up with Ricky Williams baloney. Ricky Williams.
Do you really believe that Ricky Williams is not in the picture at running back?
No, I think
I don't believe Ricky Williams is this stupid.
Ricky Williams has been injured both his 2 seasons too, though. You got to remember. So you're looking at a guy in Ricky Williams who has missed games each of the seasons because of injuries. McAllister, who had some of those issues. Maybe between the two of them, you get a heck of a back.
I just have trouble imagining somebody not being bright enough to be able to figure out what's going on. He's a great football player.
Yes.
I mean, I'm as mad as a fan of the game of football at the actions that he has. I mean, he's really stupid, and forget about going to play baseball. Guys have tried that.
And that's not the ultimate wake-up call to Ricky Williams.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what else could be a wake-up call than this?
Somebody rang
It's
the
a
bell.
12-alarm fire worth of
Yeah, going on.
And taking it back where everyone down there, I mean, they're thrilled to have Ricky still in New Orleans, but you know, a running back from Mississippi playing in New Orleans, that'll be home following in itself. I mean, that's a loud wake-up call. But let's go back a minute. We said that these two teams drafting back-to-back are two feel-good teams and feel-good stories from last year. New Orleans certainly, but it's hard to feel better than the New York Giants did last year. And joining us on the Fast Acton Tenacton video conference is the coach of the defending NFC champions, Jim Fossil. And Jim, I don't know if this was a guarantee that you were going to get a defensive back, but my goodness, you obviously were convicted to go up and get Allen from Syracuse. Why make the move there?
Well, Chris, you know, one of the things Ernie and I are very much on the same page.
Minnesota, bigger. Some teams liked him, some teams didn't necessarily.
Willie
like him.
Middlebrooks.
First-round pick. Now for new defensive coach Ray Rose. But before we get into Denver in particular, because there's lots to talk about here, and they are an intriguing team. Let's bring in a guy that knows full well about Denver because he was director of personnel under Bobby Beathard with the San Diego Chargers. Billy Devaney, now back to the New York, New Jersey area, losing that tan a little bit. Now this is an interesting pick. We're going to
Freddie Mitchell.
get on the whole AFC West.
You remember Freddie Mitchell?
Is a team
He was
now,
he had some big moments in the Super Bowl though.
Andy Reid's been head coach and Mo Drack running the draft, but they draft Donovan McNabb to booze here 2 years ago, and booze would be the understatement. The Philly fans who have no problem booing the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus. I mean, there was no problem booing the pick of Donovan McNabb here. Then this season starts and Peterson starts, and they're booing Andy for not starting McNabb. So they went 180 before the season began. All right, let's put that aside. Donovan McNabb has become a fast riser as quarterback and a Pro Bowl quarterback. Last year in the first round, albeit very high again, Corey Simon, 2 home runs, I would say, to this point by the Eagles, who were drafted down here for the first time in a while. Now with Freddie Mitchell, a guy at UCLA who scares off some because of the way he might carry himself, shall we say. He doesn't lack of confidence, but Andy Reid personally, quote, gave the front office a couple days off a week and a half ago, and he went out to see him and made the decision on his own.
When you look at it, Freddie Mitchell, one of the most confident players in this draft, he believes he should have been the first receiver taken. He believes he can dominate any cornerback in America and in the NFL, and that's what you need at the pro level. You can't shy away from that type of pressure. You have to be aggressive. He goes and gets the football. Everybody said, well, he's quick, he's not fast. Well, he went to the combine workout, and he ran. Some players don't. Freddie did. Billy Devaney, he ran a 4.44. And if everybody said, hey, he's fast talking Freddie Mitchell, now he's just fast Freddie Mitchell. And I think that 4.44 established Freddie Mitchell as a clear and no question about it, mid to late first round.
No question, Mel. And I think that the talking part of Freddie Mitchell, there's two kinds. If you come across as a jerk and kind of a low life, if you will, that's one kind of guy. If you're just
a low life?
You can back it up like Freddie Mitchell. People don't really get down on that kind of trash talking. So I look at that as a positive out of a guy. And if Freddie Mitchell, even if he doesn't catch a pass in the league, it's already going to be noted for the greatest quote going into the combine when said that when people talk about the combine being a meat market, then I'm the filet mignon.
Well, and so the Eagles get an offensive, and then, by the way, they think, although they don't know it's a unique injury with Deuce Staley, they think that the foot injury is coming along well, and they can only hope so because you can only mask the lack of a big-time runner for so long, but they certainly did that well. And now with Freddie Mitchell, Andy Reid would have preferred to go a bigger guy and not a receiver. First time the Eagles have gone receiver first round since Kenny Jackson at 84. I mean, that's a long time ago. We'll talk more about the Eagles, who are clearly a team on the rise and intriguing as heck. So is Denver. Denver goes with Middlebrooks, and let's look at him, Mel and Billy and Joe. 6'1.5", 200-pound DB at corner from Minnesota. There's not a lot of INTs, which doesn't necessarily mean something one way or the other. But how do you rate it? Some did not have him in the first round, Mel. Do you agree? There would be some mixed
Willie Middlebrooks.
And the reason is, Chris, he comes out early as a junior, and of course he had that.
Miami is number 26 of the 31 teams in the first round. Could we hear the name Drew Brees here? We'll get to that in a moment. That would be intriguing.
For real.
Defensive back from Wisconsin, Jamar Fletcher.
That was crazy because
it's interesting.
they could have drafted Drew Brees. They ended up trying to sign Brees a few years later, but then they failed him on his physical.
Yeah.
And then he went to New Orleans and became a Hall of Famer.
But as we said before, this is a guy that it's hard to top what you do in your first year as a head coach in professional football.
They had so many chances for Drew Brees.
Head coach of the New Orleans Saints, Jim Haslett. And Jim, good to be with you as always. Deuce McAllister. Surprised he was sitting there for you?
Well, look at the hair.
Obviously, he's a guy that we had rated.
Wisconsin, Michael Bennett.
So, we've had two.
Not that Michael Bennett.
Let's go back to back. Michigan had two in a row.
Not
Miami
Michael
had a couple in a row. So here is Michael Bennett, who stepped in at Wisconsin when Ron Dayne graduated, if you will, to the New York Football Giants. Well, they have to have a back. I mean, they just have to. Robert Smith retired.
You got to have some defensive players, too. We go through this year after year with this team where, I know Robert Smith is a big void to fill, but what are they going to,
next round.
Oh, they got somebody last year. They did it last year. Okay.
You look at it, you see the breakaway ability, and you see an offensive line at Wisconsin that dominates. So you watch Ron Dayne win a Heisman Trophy, and Michael Bennett now is a track star. You see a guy who can really run. We talk about running with authority, a guy that certainly has track speed, and I think he took his track ability, he applied it to the football field. The question with Michael Bennett is he's not that shifty as a runner. He's in here, pick up the blitz, and do the blocking, and then do the things you have to do from a physical standpoint. But needs to develop a little bit more shiftiness, and the big question is, he's got to prove they can catch the football. Only 4 receptions the entire season for the 2000 year at Wisconsin. 4 receptions, kind of
I
crazy.
don't necessarily think that it matters that much because in the offense, when you've got Randy Moss, when you've got Chris Carter, you really don't emphasize the running back catching the ball that much. He has great speed. You have a huge offensive line in Minnesota. He slides right into a system that's very similar to the one he had in college. So it can be a good, quick transition for him. But I agree.
With the 28th selection,
some Raiders.
The Oakland Raiders have chosen defensive back from Florida State, Derek Gibson.
Oh, that was a bust.
There's your safety that you were talking about with Archuleta.
But this isn't a player that's quite up to the level, in my opinion, of Adam Archuleta. Gibson has great physical ability, and he had some big games, but I saw some inconsistency, Joe, where he didn't produce the kind of results and physical talent like Derek Gibson.
It was the first area of need.
Yeah, but the pass on tight end who can get down the middle of the field and get down in another
He played out that first contract.
On the roster, maybe they felt like
Roland Williams as a pass receiver.
Well, you're going to get a lot more use of him right now than you are Todd Heath.
Damn.
Ability to come up and fill.
But you can, Joe, and this is the thing about Derek Gibson. He flashes it. There's no question he had some big games, and he certainly has the great physical ability that you look for. You watch him in certain games, you would say mid-first round. You watch him in others, you may say third round. I think he has to play to the level of his talent on a game-to-game basis. And we went back, we were talking about Archuleta, who we had penciled into Oakland, was because he was a tackling machine. And that's what Oakland needs. If anything cost them against the Baltimore Ravens, there was a bad angle on a missed tackle against Shannon Sharp that led to the Ravens and Trent Dilfer going on to victory in that AFC Championship game.
I think it was, to be honest with you, I think it was just a great throw by Trent Dilfer. I mean, you put the ball. He puts the ball the only place you can down low. In a situation like that.
There was a safety who was supposed to be lined up inside, and he landed up outside, and that's really what it was.
Anthony Dorsett still really finding his way as a safety. This is an insurance policy. I think the Raiders are looking. They feel they're good enough to compete right now and go at a title. This is one of those additions you make that, as you build, will be there.
Well, let's go back up to Mike and continue your talk with Timmy Brown. Mike, I wonder what Timmy thinks about this. We talked about the tackle made in the secondary that could have changed the Baltimore game. Michael, take it away.
Yes, we have Marquez Pope and Dorsett.
Well, Mel, look, when you have three number ones, not to mention Aeneas Williams, who you get also, and you're picking all defense, I guess you try to hit a home run with something that's not as chalk a pick. Where is this pick in your book?
Well, I think he was projected. I know he was projected to be an early 2. And we went back to Derek Gibson. I thought maybe second round to Oakland. They took him in the first to fill that need. I think you look at Ryan Pickens, a junior coming out early. You see a kid with outstanding physical ability, no doubt about that. Holds up well at the point against the run. I think he's diversified things, technically become a little bit more sound and become more consistent. I thought
Ryan Pickens.
Ohio State we were talking about, like we talked about Seymour and Stratton.
What y'all know about Ryan Pickett?
Indianapolis has chosen wide receiver from Miami, Reggie Wayne.
There it is.
Looked at my notes, I would have had.
Right before us, man.
Home run.
Here somewhere, we ought to find him.
One pick before us. God
It's
damn.
interesting. The Colts were looking at Fletcher.
Hate the coach. Reggie Wayne was right there.
That spot.
Could have been. He could have been in Baltimore with Ed Reed.
Even though they were an offensive team that scored over.
Man, that Hurricanes team was
You
crazy.
talked about it with hands, right? Route. Gets Hayden another weapon.
He's the best route runner, and I don't think anybody would question this in the National Football League about his route running skills, his strong hands, and the fact that this is a guy with ideal size. He's an even 6 feet, 200 pounds, and you look at the speed factor, around a 4.58 during his individual workout, or a 4.55 in that area. I think that's where a question went up. But I think Antonio Brown, look at third-round pick, wasn't perceived to be the number one option. This is a guy, certainly with Marvin Harrison there, established as that deep threat, Morton Joe. Now you bring in a Reggie Wayne, polished and more consistent than Jerome Payton. I think that's the key, Chris. A polished veteran who can come in as a rookie and give Peyton Manning a guy you can count on a play-to-play basis. When the ball's thrown his way, Reggie Wayne has the strongest hands of any wide receiver I've pretty much ever graded. I think that's a strong statement, but I really believe he is phenomenal as far as the natural pass receiver.
You know what the clue was? It's not that Bill Polian is running the draft, and of course Jim Moore and everyone, and then you would think they'd have a clue. But as I look down at the other end of the theater here, and I look to see who's sitting next to Chris Fowler, and I see Peyton Manning. There should have been our hint right away, guys.
Reggie freaking Wayne, bro. At 30.
Wayne's name was announced.
They really brought Peyton Manning for the draft.
They got Reggie Wayne at pick 30.
With strong hands and goes against football, but that is Reggie Wayne.
I think I'm really excited about the pick. I think, I have to admit, I was thinking defense probably along the way, but I knew we needed a big receiver. I followed Reggie Wayne's career. He's a New Orleans kid from John Ehret High School out of New Orleans. I've seen him make some big catches for Miami, and we have the smaller, speedy guy, Marvin Harrison and Terrence Wilkins. Reggie Wayne is going to help our football team tremendously.
Reggie Wayne, the 4th Miami player selected.
Look how young Peyton was.
Already.
He didn't clock with blazing speed, but you said you don't need that at this point out of him. He brings other things.
That's right. He's a big physical guy, and against man-to-man coverage and bump and run coverage, you need a big, strong physical guy that can throw the defender off and make some big catches across the middle. So he's really going to fit in perfectly into our offense. And I'm kind of disappointed Polian didn't call me and fill me in on what was going on, but I guess I'm not there yet. But I tell you,
I'm not there yet.
His name mentioned, and I'm truly excited about the pick.
Of course, the Colts do with a defense that was near the bottom of the league.
Reggie Wayne was a perfect pick.
Last year, 6
Hall
out
of
of 7
Famer.
draft picks were on defense. Where do you want to see him go now?
Well, I think the reason we made the trade probably is because we need more players. We get an extra third pick, get an extra 6th-round pick. I think we'll probably focus on defense the rest of the draft. And the best thing we've been able to do is keep our players on offense. We lost some players on defense. And I think Baltimore really set the barrier this year, proving how a great defense can take you all the way to the championship. So hopefully we can focus on that the rest of the
He's really
draft.
just saying, get me a damn defense.
3 years ago,
Everybody
you
was talking
number
about
one
the
pick.
Ravens.
Now you're here for DirecTV playing a host.
That
and interviewer.
2000 defense was
Like I said,
nasty,
you
man.
sat down with Michael Vick, today's first pick, and did a Sunday conversation for ESPN. What'd you guys talk about? You give him advice?
Well, I tried to give him a little. I told him he had to teach me how to be a better runner for any advice I would give him. But I guess I am on the different side of the ball. Certainly know what it's like to be in your
How young Peyton
doing some
was.
stuff for DirecTV, but it was fun to visit with Michael. Certainly realize what he's going through, the whirlwind tour, going to the Atlanta Falcons as the first pick in the draft, how excited he is. I'm extremely happy for him and proud of him. He's going to have a great NFL career.
Peyton, thanks for your time. Enjoy the addition of Reggie Wayne to the Indianapolis Colts. A couple of New Orleans guys perhaps hooking up in a different dome.
That's
guys.
right.
All right, guys, thank you. There's the face of the NFL for the last few years and the next 10 years. Peyton Manning, one thing they didn't have was a big wide receiver. Not that he's huge, Wayne, but he's bigger really than Marvin is or Peyton or most of the guys that they have. The 6th wide receiver taken, by the way, in the first round.
What will the Ravens do?
We saw Timmy Brown earlier, which is why we bring this up. 1988, admittedly, there were a few less teams then. 6 first-round wide receivers. Tim Brown, a guy named Sterling Sharp. Have we heard from him lately?
Very heavy receiver. Very heavy, big guy.
Michael Irvin, bang, bang, and bang. Look, 3 great picks. Anthony Miller, Aaron Constant, and Wendell Davis. So, Wayne, now this ties 88 with the most wide receivers ever in the first round. And now we come to the Super Bowl champion, Baltimore Ravens.
Doesn't that have a beautiful ring to it?
Bring your defense.
Super Bowl champion, Baltimore Ravens.
We need it back.
Yeah, we need it back. I need that feeling.
Let's go to Solomon.
I need that. I need to hear it again.
Waiting. Now's your shot.
Oh, that's right, Boomer. You talked about the Baltimore Ravens defense, and talking with the Ravens Vice President of Player Personnel, Ozzie Newsome, he said that this team is built with speed, and they have the speed on defense. They want to add speed to the offense. Now, the player that they covet most on the board, particularly with this 31st pick, is that tight end Todd Heap from Arizona State. He's the guy that they want. And remember, the New York Giants, everyone thought they would take a tight end when they jumped to the 22nd pick. Of course, everyone here in Baltimore, they were holding their collective breaths, sort of waiting to see who they would take. They thought that they would take the tight end. So now the Baltimore Ravens stand poised to try to take Todd Heap, or they will take him.
Man, they were spoiling shit back then.
They like
They were spoiling
picks.
picks.
That he's a good fit for their system, and he'll fit in the same mode as a Shannon Sharp, and they can study under Shannon with a mentor like Shannon Sharp. He'll be able to fit in this offense.
Well, thank you, Solomon. It makes sense. I mean, they just going out on a limb. I don't think they need that much help defensively, Mel. So,
no, I'll tell you what, Boomer.
I don't think they need much help
He's
defensively.
a former tight end. You know how important the tight end is in the equation. You have Shannon Sharp. Then coach moves on. John Jones is there along with Shannon Sharp. Now you're bringing a Todd Heap. You're bringing Gerb back. Travis Taylor, guys, it's like a bonus first-round pick. They got to the Super Bowl and won it.
Travis Taylor, bonus first-round pick,
Then
baby.
Travis Taylor. So, I mean, they're in pretty good shape from an offensive standpoint, adding a Todd Heap to the equation.
And an Elvis Gerback. Everybody feels like that's an upgrade at the position for them. They want to be able to put the ball down the field. Even though they won with defense, you can't forget Brian Billick is still very much an offensive coach. And if he just imagines, if I can add 10 more points per game, what are we going to be able to do with the defense that we have? They didn't lose anybody. When I talked to Brian, he basically said, there isn't anybody in this draft that can come in and start for us right now. So this is a great opportunity to add depth at a position where there's age.
let us just remind folks real quickly. 165 points allowed, unbelievable record for a 16-game schedule, the Baltimore Ravens. In the playoffs, not counting the kick return, right, but the Giants, the opening drive by Tennessee for a touchdown, that's about it, right?
Yeah.
That's about it. Touchdown department. Last time we checked, those pretty good.
Need that again too.
Champion Ravens, all fans of all ages waiting. And then we will call the first round, as they say in France, Histoire.
Dr. Scholl's next stop, New Orleans.
How do your feet feel?
We should trade up and get Reggie Wayne.
Don't sneeze on me. Go get some tissue.
It's like spring. The massaging wave
Go
system
get some
gives you more
tissue.
cushioning than regular gel ever could before.
It relieves tension in your feet. It feels like it's massaging the foot. Dr. Scholl's, treat yourself right. Presenting the
We should trade up and get Reggie Wayne.
The Michelin
I know. Do you think the Ravens would have taken Reggie Wayne?
I'd like to believe so.
You say you think so?
I said I'd like to believe so.
Introducing the all-new Kia.
Even though they wouldn't. I feel like they picked Todd Heat.
Yeah, I think they would have probably just still taking Heat, probably.
With a darn good warranty. And by
A
1
darn good warranty.
easy way to
A
say
darn good warranty.
Okay.
Not just a good warranty, a darn good one.
Yeah.
The 31st
They
and
know
final
just regular warranty out here.
on the clock in the first round. And we all feel that it's Uriah Heep. So let's.
What makes a lot of sense.
Yet on that.
With the 31st and final selection of the first round, Baltimore has selected tight end Todd Heap from Arizona State.
That's pretty good value right
That's
there.
a shocker
Arizona,
after the
great
guy that just told us.
pass-catching tight end. You know what? I'm just thinking right now. The only way the Ravens, the only way they're going to lose is if I start picking them more. God knows I have.
All I'm thinking though right now is that this first round's over with, and there is Drew Brees sitting there for the San Diego Chargers.
Right, we'll talk about it in a moment, but that's the Todd Heap, and then the Chargers may have stashed a big heap by the way they engineered the last 48 hours.
Chris, they have Todd Heap almost 6
Yeah, Chargers having the day of their life.
250 pounds. Look at the hands. Look at the ability to get down the field and make the play. Assist as far as a blocker. A great inline blocker.
That's gotta feel so good knowing you traded back, got LaDainian Tomlinson, and then you're sitting there with the first pick on day 2.
That option for a
You got Drew
quarterback.
Brees.
Human highlight film type for section, Joe. This guy has remarkable hands. I compare it to Kellen Winslow type hands and have the impact of a Tony Gonzalez. You match him with Shannon Sharp and Brian Billick has strength at the tight end position.
Looks a little bit like a Steven Alexander coming out. But
Except
I mean,
more athletic.
I think
more
so.
athletic than Steve.
The other side, you talk about not much.
And that's our first round.
Line the way it's set up, and you know that Shannon Sharp. Well, Shannon Sharp hasn't really. That hasn't been the strength of his, and they'll pick his spots for him. Again, this is a guy that they don't need to come in and play right away. But Brian will find a way to slide him in and allow him to go out and make a contribution.
And now we move, not to short trip the Ravens. We got plenty of time. We're doing the second round. We're doing the third round. But now we move to something more you said as we were rolling the Heap highlights. Perhaps San Diego, what are they doing? They're getting out of one. They're giving up on Michael Vick. Well, they get their running back, Tomlinson, albeit losing a couple of pounds of sweat. And now sitting there, if they want, is quarterback Drew Brees of Purdue. A possibility, a certain possibility. First, let's go, before we discuss it here, is Sean Salisbury, San Diegan quarterback. And Sean, I mean, is Drew Brees a fit for San Diego right here, do you think?
A major fit, and that's the guy they want. I spent a lot of time talking to head coach Mike Riley, and this draft is set up exactly the way John Butler and those guys wanted it to. They get their running back. Now they're going to get a quarterback who they're very high on, like his toughness.
Drew Brees.
Like what he's all about, is played in a big-time conference.
Look at that guy.
In both
Look at
ways.
that
Big-time
guy.
pick.
Young
They want
Drew
Drew
Brees.
Brees right here. They actually tried to trade up with Miami, the 26th pick there in the first round. Couldn't pull it off because they thought somebody else was going to snatch him. They get their guy with the first pick of the second round. This is a huge
Man, they just spoiled the whole draft.
Well, if it works out that well, they certainly have the opportunity, Sean, to do that. Joe, let me go to you quickly on Drew Brees. He may not have the total upside of a Michael Vick, who I know you love. I mean,
no one does.
Fine. Drew Brees is a professional quarterback. Where would he have a chance to be a starter and a good starter one day?
I think he's a system
Maybe.
quarterback. I think he's a quarterback that has to be in the right place. I don't think you can stick him just anywhere and have him adapt to it. Although with Norv Turner there, with a running back, with a good defense, with the ability to move around, the kid rushed for 900 yards. Everybody looks at him and says, geez, I don't know, well, Drew's not this, Drew's not that. The only thing that everyone talked about was his arm is a little bit suspect. I'll go back to the discussion that I had with Sean Salisbury. He talks about arm strength. I don't think it's that important, but I think it has to be adequate enough. I would put his in the adequate category. 90 touchdown passes in a career. I think this kid knows how to win. He comes out of a system where they put the ball down the
It's
field.
an adequate arm.
I've sat and thought more and more about him. I think it's a perfect opportunity for San Diego to bring someone in young. We talked about Vic learning under Doug Flutie. Breeze can do the same thing. We'll talk about that in a minute.
The pick is in, and 24 hours ago they were fools. Now, looking better. Bulls.
With the first selection in the second round, number 32 overall, the San Diego Chargers have selected quarterback from Purdue, Drew Brees.
Look at this fan.
Fans here to say
Imagine getting Drew Brees and LaDainian Tomlinson in one draft and never win a Super Bowl.
This is interesting. This is very interesting.
Well, I'll tell you this. Mike Riley told me that 2 weeks ago, they spent time with 3 quarterbacks.
God, that's such a bad picture of Drew Brees.
Marcus Drew Brees to him was a ready-to-go quarterback, which I think brings up an interesting dynamic. Joe, you mentioned Michael Vick under Doug Flutie. Doug Flutie's not known for mentoring young quarterbacks. Yet Drew Brees is ready to play. He's got a chip on his shoulder.
That boy Brees used to throw one of the prettiest deep balls. Look at this joint. Prettiest deep balls I've ever seen from a quarterback.
That's right. Nobody mentors. Doug Flutie's out there to win football games. I think Drew, well, you can learn things from him. But the other side, it doesn't flow quite the way.
I think it's either Vic or Russ for me.
These two guys are like night and day when it comes to playing the quarterback position. So what's going to happen is Drew Brees goes into a situation where Norv Turner, that's the key.
Yeah, there was only 31 teams back then, Jordan. The Houston Texans did not exist yet.
Yeah.
So the lessons will be learned from Doug.
Pre JJ Watt.
Pre JJ Watt. Pre Andre Johnson.
Yeah.
Great weather, right? Yeah. How's that in San Diego? If you have questionable arm strength,
at least 8 games
obviously want to be out there. And I think when you look at Drew Brees, short memory, throws an interception, comes back with a touchdown pass, throws through lanes very effectively, even though he's 6 foot and a quarter.
Moves around.
And I'll tell you, he's the new captain comeback. 4 times this year, 4 successive weeks, led Purdue to comeback victories, then led the Boilermakers to their first trip to the
Oh
road.
my God, I just read who we got in the second round.
Who do we get?
Gary Baxter, bro.
Going to the San Diego Chargers.
Gary.
You can expect.
Bro.
Well, at least we got Tahi.
Yeah. Us older guys, we have short memories.
Oh, man. I was like looking at the second round of the draft. I'm like, wow, the second round wasn't bad.
Jordy said, do y'all think that we will ever, or do we think there will ever be another expansion? I do think it will be another expansion.
Yeah, at some point.
When? I don't know.
And Jaws, as you've broken down Drew Brees, what stuck out?
I think NFL will be last
Drew
out of the 4 leagues to expand next.
He knows how to manage
Trust,
the
welcome
football
back.
game. And he has what I believe is a very important characteristic of a quarterback.
Trust is waiting to get called up.
What's up?
He's waiting for his draft pick.
Forget about the history and
Brady
move
missed
ahead.
Drew Brees and Todd Heap get drafted.
Do that. People talk about his lack of arm strength. Garbage. He is very.
I was out. I ain't gonna lie, I was out for a minute.
Reggie Wayne to Todd.
Oh, we know
Heap.
you was, bro.
Reggie Wayne, Todd Heap, Drew Brees. That's pick 30 through 32, man.
So that was a 2001 draft. As you can see, the drafts were much longer back then because there was a lot of talking, and they had like 11 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, bro, it was long. It was longer than that. They had like 15 towards the end of the first round.
Yeah, it's like 15 minutes on the clock. Like, whew, that's a long time.
That's crazy.
And back then they had more than 7 rounds. So like the draft would literally take like 4 days, 5 days. It'd take
Some
a week.
LOB stuff.
Yeah, it was insane.
Yeah, I'm glad it's fast paced today.
What's your guys' thoughts though? 2001 draft. What's your thoughts? What's your takeaways?
I think like the one thing that definitely does stick out with the longer draft is like, wow, there's a lot more time to make trades.
Yeah.
Like trades were happening. It was like between divisions and like regular trades. Like you're seeing people move up and down the board constantly. And that's just like really cool to see. I mean, 2001, obviously you have your group of Hall of Famers. You have your group of players who played pretty well for a while. There are only a few busts where they're like, I think almost everybody actually filled out their rookie contract.
Sure, I got to learn who the old commissioner was.
Yeah. Yo, Reggie Wayne at pick 30 is insane. That is insane. Dude's a Hall of Famer. Pick 30.
To think the wide receivers who went ahead. David Terrell, Corin Robinson, Rod Gardner, then Santana Moss, and Reggie Wayne.
Yeah.
And I forgot Freddie Mitchell. Freddie Mitchell as well.
All I hear is nothing, and more nothing.
Nothing more than.
He said I heard Reggie Wayne.
I heard Reggie Wayne, exactly.
Another draft class. Who else we taking this draft?
Gary Baxter. Wow.
Yeah, bro. I read that. I was bummed. Casey Robach, the center.
You know, I was interested in this year's draft. So D lineman. I know we've been going on for a while, and whatever. We're one here. You're live with us. We ain't got to go anywhere. You can cut out the parts you don't want to watch. Continue watching the parts you do like. But the D tackle from Oregon, was looking at him a little bit. He is interesting.
I'm trying to think of his name.
Derek Harmon.
Oh, Derek Harmon.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on him? Have you seen him, Trust? Trust. Oh, is it just Trust frozen?
I thought he was out too. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Trust, did you just fall asleep like with your eyes open?
No.
This is Derek Harmon though. So he started off at Michigan State, it looks like.
He's literally just like a slightly above average player to me. And that's kind of what drives me nuts. Like I don't feel a superpower. I don't feel like there's like anything that tests nuts. He's just like a jack of all trades, master of none. Because like I couldn't first, I wouldn't want him in the first.
Derek Harmon?
Yeah.
I think this is all his Michigan State stuff.
But there's a lot of D linemen that are fun, man. I'm telling you, Peebles. That's who I want.
Who's that?
I want Peebles.
What do you like about him?
Bruh, I just think he's like so disruptive. Like it's like, yeah, there's like moments where he's not as crazy, but in the moments where he's going nuts, like he's sticking out like a sore thumb. I think he plays bigger than his size too. He's just physical, man.
I mean, with losing Michael Pierce,
yeah,
not retaining Brent Urban, and Travis Jones being on the last year of his contract,
I'm sure they bring Brent.
Interior D lineman is probably a bigger need than we think.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're just always going to be drafting one. That's what they like to draft. And Peebles.
This Derek Harmon, man, he moves pretty well for a guy's size.
Yeah.
He moves really well. And they need another disruptor.
You know who I was watching the other day that kind of surprised me was Braden Swinson.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I was starting to watch him a bit more because, like, he was one of the guys I had to catch up on. I'm like, man, he should be talked about a lot more.
Agreed.
He's disruptive, too. Like, I don't even get why he's not even in this process. And all these other guys who are, like, developmental first-round picks at best are, like, way ahead of him. Like, I'm taking him over TJ Sanders.
Agreed.
I don't even like Mykel Williams. I don't get where he got overhyped.
I don't like Mykel Williams either. I think he's too slow.
Shamar Stewart.
See, I like that.
James Pierce, though. I do like James Pierce.
Yeah, James is cool. Nigga, penetration like that. Yeah, we need that. We can use that for sure. I'm not saying this is what we'll do first round, but I wouldn't be shocked. If they took Derek Harmon first round, I wouldn't be shocked at all. I'm not saying it's the ideal pick. Obviously, it would depend on what else is on the board.
Yeah.
But
who is this again?
Derek Harmon. But a disruptor interior defensive lineman. I mean, we just saw what the Eagles did, right? We just saw like what happens when you put a bunch of disruptors on the D line together. I mean, Madubuike, Travis Jones, and this guy will wreck shop.
Yeah.
And we all know that the interior D linemen, they also help the pass rushers. Because if you got to double team two guys on the interior, that means somebody on the outside is one-on-one. And they just got to win. Oh, I love that. You see that? The stick, fine. He tilted his head right, went left. He let's go back to that. I love that. Look at this. Look at him find the football. Watch this. It's coming up. Here you go, right here. Watch this. Engage. No, find the ball. Left, right. Where is he? Right there. That is really good, smart defensive tackle play. Using your length in your arms, resetting the line of scrimmage, and then finding the ball carrier. Not just rushing straight up field without a plan. This dude, I like him. He's a bull in the china shop. I like him. I hadn't done a lot of homework on him early. And then when Daniel Jeremiah mocked him to us in his last mock draft, I said, let me go back and do some more research. And I like what I saw. Again, I don't know if this is what they'll do. But it certainly makes sense when you consider the amount of depth we have. Right now, we only got Broderick Washington, Travis Jones, and Madubuike. That's it. Interior D-line. That's it. We got three guys. One guy, the other two guys we had last year, one guy's retired, and the other one is a free agent.
Bruh. You know who's a guy I like that's like more mid-round? Same thought process. Dude, Elijah Roberts.
Oh, yeah. I like Elijah Roberts.
Elijah Roberts is so fun. He's just such a weird player. He's freaking 6'4", a little small, a little undersized.
Somebody asked me about Nick Skoriton.
I'm not as big. He's kind of there.
Me neither. I do not like. I'm not a fan, but here's some Nick Skoriton.
He's another one of those groups of like edges that I was talking about, the first rounders.
I'm not a fan of Nick Skoriton, man. But here you go.
He said,
here you go. He said, have at it.
He said, you wanted your Nick Skoriton pick?
I mean, he's an edge rusher.
Yeah.
But like he doesn't really do anything that excites you. I think because the first time I saw him was all 22. And it was not impressive. Maybe if I would have went to highlights first.
I never do that with anyone.
I never go to highlights first. I need to see the truth first, and then I'll go and look at
I need to see the truth first.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is like I feel like there's certain guys that you watch in all 22 where they impress you so much more on all 22 than they ever would in highlights. It's like
Jordy says, I'm gonna be so sad when the Ravens don't take him in the second round. Who you talking about, Jordy? He's explosive. Jack Sawyer is pretty explosive. I'm not sure where he's going to go. I think he'll go early second. Oh, he's on Jack Sawyer, yeah.
Elijah Roberts, baby. Yeah, I just don't like any of the end round one guys. Like the end of the round one edges.
You know, I like the Virginia Tech guy a lot.
I like James Pierce though. Like if James Pierce was there, that'd be my pick. I mean, unless Malachi Stark's there, I take that back. I love Malachi Starks.
I
I
love
love Malachi Starks, man.
Malachi Starks is
and
ridiculous.
get Virginia Tech. That's Peebles. Peebles is crazy. So you a Peebles guy too?
I like Peebles, yeah.
Peebles.
All right. So I like the Virginia Tech edge. So let's look at him. Jordy want to look at some realistic options. So
Wait, we're not watching a Joel Carter film?
No.
That's crazy. I heard he failed a medical test and his 40 wasn't as good.
Is it too late for Jack Sawyer? Too late for Jack Sawyer film in the second round.
Princely, that's who I want second round. We doing second rounds?
I was saying, like, if we get Jack Sawyer, would y'all be mad in the second round?
Oh no, I'll be cool with it. I'll be cool with Jack Sawyer in the second round.
Like, I'm not trading up, right? It's like my second.
No. Your second.
Yeah.
All right, here's some Antoine Powell and Antoine Powell Riley. I love this guy. Like he's got a lot of Von Miller to him. I like him a lot. He's got an array of moves. He's got some power. He's got some speed and some finesse. He's got pretty decent arm length.
Look at people.
Look at him jack the tackle. Now go get the quarterback. Listen, bring me this kid.
So this is like your day 2 to day 3 edge.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got 2.
Go get him.
I'm a Baron Sorrell guy.
Well, watch this. Woo! I ain't seen a spin move like that since Von Miller. I mean, since Dwight Freeney.
Since Dwight Freeney.
Watch this. Dip, rip. No, find the quarterback. Sack. Watch this. Trust. Look at this one. Jack him up. No, get the quarterback.
You almost did.
Okay. Dip and rip. Get the quarterback. He's winning every time. It just depends on how fast the quarterback get rid of the ball. Close. That right there is a potential Pro Bowl pass rusher in the right situation. Look at that. Watch this. Watch this win immediately. Done. Immediate winner. Bring me Antoine Powell Riley.
Everybody got a guy. But that's a good guy.
Jordan's always the funny guy. Y'all the same name is funny. Jordans are always funny guys.
Always funny. Bro, I'm telling you though. Get me Peebles on that team. And I'm vibing. I got my guys. I want Peebles. I want Princely in the second. I want Malachi Starks. That's my dream.
Nice dream.
Thank you. I worked on it really hard.
Nice year. I worked on it really hard.
I think it's a pretty good dream. I think it's gonna happen in my heart. Now everybody hyping up Kyle Williams as wide receiver 2 in this draft.
Right, and I've been telling people about Kyle Williams. Now they finally decided to come to the party.
Bruh. Go Cougs forever and always. I'm still waiting for that wide receiver, man. I need somebody to just break my expectations.
For the Ravens?
Just period. I feel like when I'm watching this draft class, I haven't gotten like super hyped yet. Oh, this is a good player too.
Yeah, it's Norman Lott. Leaped on me.
See, Baron Sorrell's like my guy, where it's like watching highlights wouldn't be that fun of watching Baron Sorrell, but watching all 22 of Baron Sorrell is fun. Like it's just a bunch of basic shit.
Oh man, great hustle play.
That screen did not work out too well.
At all.
Isn't your boy CJ West, ain't it?
Yeah, I love CJ West.
I like CJ West too. But you were like the first person who put me on him. You were like CJ West, that guy.
Yeah, CJ West is a dog.
It's a people season, baby.
He's just such a dog, man. Like he's such a dog. Like, just a dog. Big dog.
Hey, you got some film on Tiny Powell?
Yeah. Look at this. It's a dog right here, y'all looking at. Oh wee. What's this?
Come on.
Damn. Running back never even got started. Mr. West. Double team, doesn't matter. Sack.
Got the CJ West you talking about?
Yeah, CJ West. I am sacking the quarterback no matter what you. I don't care what you do. How many men you put in front of me? It won't matter. Here you go. Oh, look. A quarterback. Watch how he wins. You get off me. I'm going to find the quarterback. Oh, there he is. Sack. I really like your double team. It's cute. Sack.
He said it's cute.
Dude is just strong as an ox. Look at this. Holding off the tackle with a one arm as he's going towards play. Like, hey, you just chill over here for a minute. I have something to take care of. Sack. Look at this. Oh, he ripped that play up on the first. Watch this. Immediately wins. Oh, yeah. Tackle for loss.
Bruh. It's just there's so many guys like this in this draft class where it's like, why are they below so many random names?
Yeah. CJ, watch this. Double team. Don't worry. I'll clean it up. Sack. Excuse me.
Wait, whose weaknesses are we talking about? Sorry, just read the comments.
Yeah, he was talking about Antoine Powell Riley.
Let me go back on my notes. It's actually been a minute since I watched him.
Look at that. Boy, he's a beast.
Man, this D-line class is fun.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
You're just having a time of your life, no matter what's going on.
There's a guy who's been climbing up boards. Maxwell Harrison. He's been shooting up boards.
He's so
yeah. I've been here. I heard about him. Yeah.
He's so polished.
Look at that. Pick six. He reminds me of Nate a lot, actually. Very similar.
Bro, people were talking about him and Porter being the same because of their 40s. I'm like, fuck.
No, very different type corner. Watch this. Very similar to Nate Wiggins.
This is your trade back candidate.
Go get it. Strap. The way he breaks on the football is impeccable.
He just got some of the smoothest footwork you'll see.
Yeah, his timing is incredible.
It's just awesome. Watching him play is literally like a guy who always has a plan on what's going on.
Watch this. Go get it. Great ball skills. Just catch it next time. I like the back pedal. Back pedal, back. No break. Strap. Tackle. Fumble. I love me a corner who's a willing tackler. You ain't got to be the best tackler. Just be a willing.
Yeah.
Just be a willing participant.
That's his biggest thing.
Oh.
Very Nate Wiggins-y. Very Nate Wiggins. Oh, he'll play on special teams too? Okay. He a demon.
He a demon.
Yeah. But yeah, I like him though.
On the Powell, one of the biggest weaknesses. I just come back to my notes on it. I feel like there's a problem with like a lot of the edges of this class too. Weirdly enough, like it's something I have a problem with Princely as well. Is like, God, they go too far upfield a lot. Like it's like, oh my gosh, you just created a huge gap. Man, there's a lot of guys. Darian Porter, other fast guy, but in different ways.
Mm-hmm. Could the Ravens take 2 Iowa cornerbacks in back-to-back seasons? When I see him, he doesn't have the same like ball skills as Harrison. Like when it comes to just finding the football interceptions. But
it's super weird because like his combine doesn't support it because like he crushed the agility drills. But I always feel like his hips don't move fast. But, like he doesn't flip as easy.
Yeah, no. That's Tapper's issue too. But he's long. and he's fast, and those are things you like.
Yeah. Shows out your focus.
He ain't blinked in a minute. Are you asleep? You see with your eyes open?
Nah.
That man was staring through someone's soul over there.
I was looking at my other monitor.
Oh, you playing a game?
Nah, I was just editing something.
Okay. Man, I'm about to jump off in a minute, but we could do this again tomorrow, man.
Yes, sir.
Let's go out with some with some new Raven film of Chidobe Awuzie, our new Raven. Welcome to the flock. This is him from last season. It's so funny. You got fans posting film from Chidobe Awuzie when he was with the Cowboys. That was like a million years ago.
Yeah, that was his best years.
I literally think of him like his version or replacement for us was just like getting a Brandon Carr in the 2020s. Like you're not really doing much of it, but it's not like bad. You're just like, it's Brandon Carr. And for the vet men, how can you hate?
He used to play for the Bengals, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. He was their best corner when he was there. Yeah, I like it.
We'll see. Can't be worse than Brandon Stevens.
So, I think him, Nate, TJ Tampa, Marlo, I think that's solid. They gotta stay healthy, but I think solid.
Yeah. And you know they'll draft one.
Or two.
Yeah.
I need to see Jalen Davis gone, man.
We were talking about that earlier today. They were like, well, what if he improves? And I'm like, I've heard that one a few times now. It's time to put some new lifeblood in that corner room.
Agreed.
Someone said trade Jad the other day. I'm like, I don't think we get much. Brad, we should start posting DeAndre Hopkins Texans highlights and say, like, this is what we're getting.
Them days are gone. I ain't gonna lie, the Ravens signed 3 really solid veterans, though, with Cooper Rush, D-Hop, and Chidobe Awuzie. These are 3 solid veterans.
Yeah.
Guys that can still play, but they didn't cost you much.
Yeah. Now we don't have to worry about backup quarterback as much anymore either.
No, Cooper Rush is the best backup we've had in a long time.
Yeah. Honestly, probably since, like, Tyrod.
I think what's going to happen, too, is going to help elevate the younger receivers. Because he'll be, like, in preseason football will be better quality because you got a better backup. And so, therefore, you'll get a better look at your younger receivers.
Yeah.
I think it was hard to evaluate the receivers the last couple of years because our backup quarterback just was not good.
Yeah. Like, you'll see a Tez Walker actually getting reps.
Yeah, right. You'll be able to really gauge the development of your young receivers because you'll have a quarterback that can showcase their skill sets.
Yes, sir.
But all right, fellas, y'all get some rest, man. I'll talk to y'all tomorrow.
All right, man.
Thank y'all for doing this with me, man. I appreciate it. Yeah,
it was a blast. It was a blast always.
Yeah,
I'm glad I could finally make one.
Yes, sir.
So
Let's do it again soon.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Wow.